Federal authorities are investigating a pair of separate robberies of mail carriers on the west side. Investigators are offering $150,000 in reward money for information leading to the arrest and conviction of suspects tied to incidents in September of 2022 and November of 2022. Joliet police at the center of a civil rights lawsuit after a family accused them of wrongfully raiding their home. According to Zach Hofeld, an attorney representing the family, the officers were investigating the shooting deaths of two 22-year-olds at a Halloween party that happened 2 days earlier when they arrived on Adela Carrasco's front porch, shouting they had an arrest warrant.
I asked them to show me a warrant. They didn't show me nothing. They just pushed me aside and went in. And I'm screaming the whole time to put down the guns because I'm scared that they're going to shoot my grandkids.
Armed law enforcement officers were supposed to be executing an arrest warrant for Elliot Reyes, who actually lived next door to Carrasco. Hofeld says officers entered 226, the apartment, arresting an alien Rhea inside, but held Carrasco and her grandchildren in detainment for 6 hours.
They immediately took him into custody, took him to the police station, held him there, questioned him. And while that's going on, they're holding the family in 226. And they held the family for almost 6 hours.
The family filed FOIA requests, but Hofeld claims their requests for information have been stonewalled by police in Will County for 2 years. With daylight saving time coming to an end this weekend, the Illinois State Fire Marshal is reminding residents as you fall back to test, inspect, and replace any broken or expired smoke or CO alarm detectors. If your alarm was manufactured before October of 2013, it's time to replace that alarm. A pair of Chicago baseball players named Comeback Players of the Year. White Sox reliever Liam Hendricks won the AL award. Cubs outfielder Cody Bellinger won the NL award. Bulls tip off the NBA in-season tournament. It's kind of cool with a game against the Brooklyn Nets at the United Center. The contest will be the first of 4 group stage matches. The game is also a regular season contest and will affect Chicago's record in the standings. And if you're at the United Center, you'll get a look at the new uniforms tonight. The new City Edition attire is a throwback and includes pictures and other items from the old Chicago Stadium. Blackhawks get a look to get back in the win column. They host Florida tonight. Fighting Illini in college football come off their bye. They take on the Golden Gophers in the Twin Cities tomorrow. Bears will try to get back in the win column when they visit the Saints Sunday. Steelers, a 20-16 win over Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. And if you watched the World Series between Arizona and Texas, you were one of very few. The average viewership was 9.1 million viewers for the event. 5:08, a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
November 2nd, 2020, marked the 100th anniversary of the first commercial radio broadcast. We're still here, and we're bigger and better than ever. You can still listen to us over this great radio station, but now there are no limitations. Your smartphone is now your smart radio. Listen to us online on the app, TuneIn.com, iHeartRadio, and Odyssey.com. Your smart speaker can find us too. With radio, there is no separation anxiety. We're always on. AM 560, The Answer.
So what's the trouble here, mister?
I don't understand what happened. I checked my stuff in Chicago, and when we landed in L.A., I came to baggage claim, and there it was, my $10,000 Canoma analyzer in pieces, completely trashed.
Just the facts, buddy. What did you have it backed in?
Well, just the box it came in, but there was all this foam and thick cardboard. It looks sturdy enough.
That's what they all think, pal, till it's too late.
What am I gonna do now? My boss is gonna kill me.
Here's some good advice for you. The next time you transport anything valuable, put it in a Star case, leading manufacturer of custom reusable shipping cases.
So where do I get a Star case?
Now you're getting smart, bub. You can find everything you need to know to order one direct at starcase.com or call 800-822-STAR, where a friendly, knowledgeable sales engineer will be glad to help you design the custom case you need. That's starcase.com or 800-822-7827.
It seems like everyone is on a complicated diet these days. Gluten-free, keto, metabolic, sugar-free. And with these diets comes special dietary protocol and food products. You can find plenty of advice on your social media sites, but you need expertise to purchase the right food items. A visit to Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop is necessary to shop the best food choices for a medical diet or health plan. Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop stocks all the hard-to-find foods you're looking for, like wheat and dairy alternatives, sugar-free baking mixes, healthy snacks, and more. There's no longer a reason to put off that diet you're supposed to be on when you have Lil's. The staff has personally researched and vetted each item in the store and has plenty of choices in stock.
Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop on 111th Street in Mount Greenwood on the south side of Chicago. Stop in and shop in person or order online at lilsdietary.com and get your items shipped right to your home. lilsdietary.com. Shop, learn, and be healthy.
It is 5:11. Let's get an update on the roads. This early morning and all morning long, it's in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, and this update is a service of Blindster.com. Blind shade shutters at low prices, custom made for your windows. Shipping is free. Shop at home, order 10 free samples before you buy at Blindster.com. Just a couple of construction delays. Northbound Tri-State, you're jammed from the Bishop Ford off and on all the way to the Wisconsin state line, with on and off construction delays, especially near Ogden Avenue right now, causing delays this morning. Veterans Toll Road, also construction as you travel southbound from Ogden Avenue. You have entrance ramp closures there until 6 a.m. this morning. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy starts next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Today, mostly cloudy, rather breezy. Our high today, 58. Cloudy skies for tonight and tomorrow. Low tonight, 44. High tomorrow at 55. More clouds than sun on Sunday. High Sunday afternoon, 60. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Temperatures going up just a little bit. 47 at O'Hare, 45 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 5:30. Chicago's Morning Answer starts next on AM 560, The Answer.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts: knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
It's hard to believe, but 2024 will be here soon. Before you get caught up in all the busy holiday season shopping and whatnot, ask yourself, what are you doing now to put your retirement in a better position for the future? Sean Thompson here for my friend Tom Fortino of Alpha Wealth Group. Tom has prepared a 2023 year-end planning report. This report will show you ways to reduce your tax burden on your retirement savings, income strategies that don't depend on a volatile market, and ideas on how to protect and pass down assets to your loved ones. Tom has been helping build financial plans for retirements for over 2 decades, and he's sharing his knowledge and experience in this report. Call Tom today at 630-934-1855 and ask for the 2023 year-end planning report. That's 630 800-934-1855 or visit alphawealthgroup.com. And listen to the Alpha Wealth Hour right here on AM 560 The Answer, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m.
Advisory services through Retirement Wealth Advisors, LLC, and SEC Registered Investment Advisor. Insurance and annuities offered through Alpha Wealth Group, licensed in Illinois.
When you're in the market to buy or sell a home, commercial property, or even vacant land, let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. She's reliable, responsive, personable, and extremely thorough when helping you deal with an otherwise stressful transaction. Attorney Kim leads with her values and is committed to providing legal services with excellence. To contact Attorney Kim, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com. Whether it's drafting agreements, negotiating contract terms, or closing on a property, Attorney Susan J. Kim can do it all. Over 10 years of experience and her wealth of knowledge tackling complicated legal negotiations and breaking them down into a smooth, easy-to-understand process is what she does best. So let attorney Susan J. Kim step in. To schedule your legal consultation today, visit sjkimlaw.com. That's sjkimlaw.com or call 847-906-3166. Susan J. Kim Attorney at Law is a state of Illinois licensed real estate attorney.
Over 30 years ago, the challenge was accepted, and the Pride Stores has been redefining the convenience store experience throughout Chicagoland ever since. In the spirit of giving thanks this month to the surrounding communities for supporting the Pride Store's vision, you're invited to take advantage of their November promotion at the Pride of St. Charles. Buy 8 gallons of gas and receive 20% off your purchase at the Pride Beer and Wine Plus Spirits just next door. That's right, 8 gallons of gas gets you 20% off an amazing selection of local craft beers, high-end wines from Napa, Sonoma, Walla Walla, and Columbia Valley, plus a wide variety of Pride barrel picks. And don't forget about 93 Octane Brewery located inside the same building. Might as well get a pint while you shop. Offer ends Thursday, November 30th, and valid only at the Pride of St. Charles on Lincoln Highway. With 17 Chicagoland locations, visit thepridestores.com to find the one nearest you. That's thepridestores.com. The Pride Stores, not your typical convenience store.
Looking to purchase a new home? Then you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Saving for a down payment is one of the largest challenges borrowers face when purchasing a home. But I have amazing news. Team Hochberg has a new loan program for borrowers who qualify that will enable you to purchase a home with only 1% down and no private mortgage insurance. You heard me. Team Hochberg has a new loan program that will enable borrowers who qualify to purchase a home with only 1% down and no private mortgage insurance. To see if you qualify, call Team Hochberg now at 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Team Hochberg's helped thousands of radio listeners secure financing on new homes, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. 855-563-2843 or visit our website 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, NMLS 1124061.
It's obvious the unthinkable is happening. With all the recent media distractions, most folks never saw it coming. But a few did. Their guts told them something very wrong was going on. And now the headlines are proving them right. The people in charge keep telling you that everything's fine and to stop noticing. But you know better. Folks are investing in emergency food storage, and you should too. My Patriot Supply, the nation's largest emergency preparedness company, are the ones you can trust. Go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure their best-selling 3-month emergency food kits. Each contains tasty breakfasts, lunches, and dinners, averaging over 2,000 calories per day. Get at least one for each family member. My Patriot Supply also sells biomass stoves, off-grid room heaters for when the power goes out, gravity-powered water filters, heirloom seeds, and survival gear that may come in handy soon. Go to mypatriotsupply.com today. It's time to prepare for what's coming. mypatriotsupply.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
This hourly segment is brought to you by CharlesEquipment.com, keeping you powered up no matter what the conditions. CharlesEquipment.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and we start today by going to the old mailbag. Got a little feedback from a segment we did yesterday where we zeroed in on Oak Park River Forest High School as well as New Trier. The response that I'm talking about specifically with respect to our letter, our correspondence from a listener, is OPRF. I mentioned OPRF had, and this is right out of the communist pamphlet that circulates in Oak Park and River Forest, the Oak Park Leaves or whatever they call it. I mean, I just mentioned that because they mentioned it, that Oak Park River Forest is no longer considered a, quote, exemplary, unquote, school in Illinois. It fell out of the top 10% of government high schools because of the test score, the proficiency rates, the scoring, the data. But the excuse was, well, we have a significantly bigger proportion of our students are English as a second language learners, and that counted against our ranking.
Right, because that's what happened, right?
And I
You're
noted,
not wrong.
I noted that at OPRF, where they celebrate diversity to the exclusion of intellectual achievement, there's a 54-point spread between white and black students at OPRF when it comes to the question of the percentage of students reading at grade level. Yeah, but nonetheless, 94% of the students graduate, even though 58% are proficient in reading, and 99.3% of the district teachers are rated as excellent or proficient. So no disconnect there, but at least not seen by the denizens of Oak Park and River Forest, but I see one, and so I talked about it. And, we just discussed, as we have many times before when it comes to OPRF, because they're so self-satisfied about what a rotten school they have. Well, this drew a missive from Miss Cynthia Mungerson. She writes, Dear Casey, she writes, on the same day that you disparaged the achievement gap at OPRF High School and showed concern for River Forest residents. I don't think I showed concern for River Forest residents because I have none. The same day you disparaged the achievement gap at OPRF High School, Oak Park warmly welcomed, at a moment's notice, 102 desperate immigrants.
Oh my God, stop.
We are a family with many OPRF graduates who has been blessed with a love of learning through preparations for college, graduate school, and the inspiration for a life of service, all from our quote-unquote exemplary teachers.
The end.
A breath of perspective, compassion for those who struggle, and the endorsement of a community that values everyone's worth far outweigh any ratings gap. 312-642-5600, turnkey.parental line, 64636-DA, turnkey.pro text line. If anyone would like to echo the sentiments of Cynthia Mungerson, certainly willing to take criticism.
Wow. So their high school took in 20 migrants?
No. Oak Park warmly welcomed 102 desperate immigrants. We are a family with many OPRF graduates, blessed with a love of learning. A breath of perspective, compassion for those who struggle, and the endorsement of a community that values everyone's worth far outweigh any ratings gap. Don't look at the fact that 74% of honky students read at grade level at OPRF, but only 20% of black students do, even though we spend all our time prattling on about die and in doing our best to indoctrinate the kids with the identitarian politics of the day. Pay no attention to the ratings gap. You're not looking at our compassion. You're not looking at how we value.
Rating.
Well, that'd be off the charts. Exactly. You're not looking at how we value every human being.
102, by the way, is nothing. That's child's play. If you really want to be inclusive and giving and equality and equity and blah, 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 take more. Take tens, thousands. Well, they're on their way here.
We're on the same wavelength, because here was my response to Miss Cynthia Mungerson.
Love your responses. We should get a jingle to this. Okay.
Miss Mungerson, I'm both underwhelmed and amused. The stats disparage OPRF. The school is an affront to education. The hypocrisy of the 1960s refugees in Oak Park, that glorious nuclear-free zone, and the ghastly Harridans in River Forest is thicker than molasses. You care so deeply about everything except results. Your self-congratulatory bilge about welcoming migrants is comical. In whose homes are they residing? 102? That's the best you can do? Where's the recruitment to give all the spiteful Mercedes Marxists in town who carry on with their "no one is illegal" rap and display their "hate has no home here" signs the chance to live their values? I'm sure Chicago would be happy to transport folks, saying, as BLM Brandon is now terming them, a burden on the city. Make the call. Anyway, you go on and feel your feelings regardless of their barbaric consequences, and I'll continue to tell the truth about what morally bankrupt totalitarian ghouls you and your fellow travelers are. Regards, Dan Proft.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. You can also reach us all morning line on our text line. It is up and running, folks. 64636, type in DA, then a quick comment. See, nobody could top that letter that you just wrote.
Well, but they could certainly try to help Cynthia Mungerson in this little conversation we're having. I haven't received a reply to my reply, but I'm certainly hoping for one for the entertainment value, if nothing else. This is the mentality you're up against, though. I mean, you want to understand why things the way they are the way they are, which everybody should seek to understand, particularly when things are problematic. This mentality, that sentence that I've read a couple of times now, is the key. Don't look at the results.
Just
look at how deeply we feel about things.
Right. We care. Yes.
That's the attitude of the left writ large, and that's the well-intentioned left, and that's a small percentage of the left in my assessment.
How could you not realize that they're failing miserable when you see such a huge achievement gap between white students and black students?
She's not failing because she cares.
Oh, that's right. Since
if you care, you can't fail the kids.
Okay. All right. Now I'm starting to understand.
She's a good person, and her family are good people, and she's proud that they're OPRF graduates, and she's proud that Oak Park is welcoming 102 desperate immigrants, as she terms them, and that's what matters. What happens to the people coming to this country or attempting to come to this country, that is, if they die, if they're being trafficked, if they're indebted to Mexican drug cartels, if they aim to do America harm, none of that matters. Just like reading test scores, reading math proficiency and test scores, what does that matter? Don't you see how much I care? Why don't you care as much as I care? Because I value the worth of every human being in a way that you can't even understand because you're so focused on outcomes. That's the divide. It really is. It's a nice illustration. I appreciate the correspondence from Miss Mungerson. Jeff in Antioch, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Hi, good morning. Well, when they graduate, these students can't read at grade level, etc. They eventually land the job, and everything is their supervisors and managers, etc. The only thing they care about are results, and that's what it is. So they're really setting them up to fail. If they don't fail, it forces them to take things over and kind of like put their nose to the grindstone and all that and get it right. Well, you know what? They're just going to fail.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Jeff. I mean, we played these videos that are making the rounds on I think it was last Friday's program, actually, when Cass sat in for you, Amy. And, that they're going viral, these many Gen Z videos where they're basically mugged by the reality, and they're complaining about 9-to-5 schedules, and they're complaining that they're working in a sushi restaurant when they have a business marketing degree. And so the mugging by reality of that Jeff is talking about for certain. George, Naperville.
Dan, this is the new Oak Park Peace Corps. They're going to be doing good all over the world, these students.
Well, I'd certainly be in favor
that.
of exporting Oak Park residents to other parts of the world. Thanks for the call, George. Coming up at 5:38, speaking about not being particularly interested in consequences, just being interested in navel gazing and celebrating yourself. The rules change that IHSA instituted for boys playing girls' sports, it has had a consequence in cross country. We'll have that at 5:38.
And later, don't turn the lights out. And folks, hope you're sitting down. Mayor Johnson lied to everyone. But now, let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
38 degrees at 5:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Tensions are running high over Chicago's status as a sanctuary city. Special city council meeting yesterday about the matter spiraled into chaos. Alderman Anthony Beal, Ray Lopez, and others want a non-binding referendum added to next spring's ballot that would decide Chicago's sanctuary city designation.
We have 20,000 migrants today. So what is the price tag on that now? And we can't get solid answers.
City council struggled to meet a quorum to conduct even basic business. At one point, the lights were turned off in the middle of a chaotic debate and no vote was taken.
I'm at loss for words, a lot of time being wasted.
Alderman Emma Mitz agreed with Alderman Brendan Riley that the decades-old ordinance didn't anticipate today's illegal migrant crisis. The meeting ending with shouts and accusations, and the mayor in Washington, D.C., pushing the federal government for more help.
This financial dynamic has caused a tremendous burden on our local economy.
Johnson and other big city mayors want $5 billion plus more in federal funding for aid to so-called migrants. The House on Thursday overwhelmingly approving a resolution condemning support for Hamas, Hezbollah, and terror organizations on U.S. college campuses. The vote was 396 to 23. And classes at Cornell University in New York are being canceled today after anti-Semitic threats. Michael Fitz, president of Tulane University in New Orleans, hopes universities can start engaging in conversations of mutual respect after clashes between pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian students on his campus last week.
We've got to keep students safe, and they will remember what they learned from it and what they learned about their ability to come together as part of it.
Cornell University officials say today's move is due to extraordinary stress from student Patrick Dye, arrested over violent threats against Jewish students on campus. A former Pennsylvania nurse this morning is accused of killing 17 nursing home patients. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's office Thursday announcing new charges against 41-year-old Heather Presti. The charges include 2 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. Federal indictment has been filed against Village of Riverdale Mayor Lawrence Jackson. He's charged with 1 count of perjury and 1 count of obstruction of justice. In May of 2022, the FBI raided Jackson's home related to records from Tri-State Disposal. Now, the feds have been keeping an eye on Jackson for years over a legal fight over garbage pickup in the south suburb. Students at Lockport Township High School's central campus evacuated after a ceiling collapse. Plaster from a ceiling fell in a classroom on the 3rd floor. School leaders are working with Lockport Fire and the city engineer to find out why. A pair of Chicago baseball players were named Comeback Players of the Year. White Sox reliever Liam Hendricks won the AL award, while the Cubs outfielder Cody Bellinger won the NL award. Bulls tip off the NBA in-season tournament with a game against the Brooklyn Nets at the UC tonight in new uniforms as well tonight, throwbacks to the old Chicago Stadium. Blackhawks look to get back in the win column when they host Florida at the UC tomorrow night. College football, the Illini take on the Golden Gophers this weekend, while Northwestern heads to the Diamond for the Wildcat Classic against Iowa at Wrigley Field. The news, a service of Salem Surround. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Best Dental Group of Bartlett, the Illinois Family Institute, and by Alpha Wealth Group.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century with IoT Smart Connected Scanning. It's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
It seems like everyone is on a complicated diet these days. Gluten-free, keto, metabolic, sugar-free. And with these diets comes special dietary protocol and food products. You can find plenty of advice on your social media sites, but you need expertise to purchase the right food items. A visit to Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop is necessary to shop the best food choices for a medical diet or health plan. Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop stocks all the hard-to-find foods you're looking for, like wheat and dairy alternatives, sugar-free baking mixes, healthy snacks, and more. There's no longer a reason to put off that diet you're supposed to be on when you have Lil's. The staff has personally researched and vetted each item in the store and has plenty of choices in stock.
Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop on 111th Street in Mount Greenwood on the south side of Chicago. Stop in and shop in person or order online at lilsdietary.com and get your items shipped right to your home. lilsdietary.com. Shop, learn, and be healthy.
Have you been searching for a Napa Valley quality winery experience closer to home? A hidden gem awaits you at Bishop's Hill Winery in Joliet. Come experience fine wine, history, and castles. Stay to enjoy the Bishop's Hill Tasting Room to round out a perfect day. The Bishop's Hill Castle is easily accessible in nearby Joliet. This facility was home to a former brewery in the 1860s and is located on a hill with a commanding view where you'll enjoy sampling some of the highest rated wines in the world. Bishop's Hill wines are made from California grapes and sustainably grown. These wines have received Best in Class, Gold, and Double Gold awards at the San Francisco Chronicle North American Wine Competition. Now is your opportunity to stock up for the holidays and purchase national award-winning wine from Joliet-based Bishop's Hill Winery. If you want the Napa experience without the cost, look no further. Group discounts are available, and the Bishop's Hill Castle is also ready to host your next event for your family or business. Visit online at bishopshill.com. That's bishopshill.com.
Make the hiring process work for you. With Indeed's end-to-end hiring solution, you can attract, interview, and hire candidates all from one place. Start at Indeed.com/credit.
5:38, let's get an update on the roads. A service of the Fireplace and Chimney Authority called to schedule your appointment today, 630-279-8500, or you can visit their showrooms in Lisle and Elmhurst, or check them out online, fireplaceandchimneyauthority.com. Tri-State accident, left lane block, northbound, just north of Cermak. I-80, slow traffic with an accident on the left shoulder. It's on the eastbound side between Briggs and Cherry Hill Road. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, breezy this morning, otherwise mostly cloudy and a high of 58. Right now 47. Next news at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Wealth Health Radio with Joe Murphy, Sundays noon to 1. Learn more online at mwmfinancial.tax.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Sports and politics and sports and politics and sports and politics and intersection. Arrogance and ignorance, arrogance, ignorance, and arrogance and ignorance. Intersection.
On this installment of Sports and Politics, first start with a sort of a fun one. Before we get to what I mentioned about the IHSA policy change with respect to boys playing girls sports.
Oh, no.
Robbie Starbuck tweeting this, and a couple people have observed this. You know, Texas Rangers, who just won the World Series the other night, the only team that doesn't have some LGBTQ2 spirit plus night.
Mm-hmm.
The baseball season began with a preseason favorite to win the World Series, the Dodgers, honoring drag queens that mock Jesus, and it ended with the Rangers winning the World Series the day their player, reliever, Jose Leclerc, celebrated Jesus with a quote-unquote Jesus won shirt. He won indeed. Yeah. Yeah, just sort of fun. I mean, I don't believe, Jesus picks sides in sporting events. Jesus, please help us kick the snot out of our opponent. I don't think he's in that game. But it's just fun. I like it. So that's why I shared it. All right, IHSA policy. You're
I'm an
IHSA
member.
coach.
Well, yeah, and I have a login, and yes, I'm a member of IHSA.
So,
Want my code?
Apparently this happened just this fall, actually, after the fall sports season started.
Okay.
Which is the IHSA move to a boys can play girls sports on a case-by-case basis that we'll evaluate.
Right. Well, what I was told, and I don't know if this has changed from just because everything's fluid, but last I was told is if you have a male who wants to play a female sport or a female that wants to play a male sport, you have to have a letter from their parents saying that they are transitioning, and then some. I'm not sure about the doctor's note, but I know that for sure the parents have to be in on. You can't just say, "Oh, I feel like my name's Sally, so I want to go beat Lincoln Park, so I'm going to just suit up."
Yeah, that sounds all well and good, but it's not. That's not how it actually works in practice. I mean, this is from the IHSA manual. It's Section 34, Policy and School Recommendations for Transgender Participation.
Okay.
Schools shall notify all students who wish to participate in state series athletic events or activities that any student who wishes to participate in gender-specific state series athletic events or activities under a gender identity different from the sex assigned to the student at birth shall be required to obtain an eligibility ruling from the IHSA prior to participation. So you have to get a ruling, but when it comes to what you have to produce in order to get a favorable ruling, it gets a little gooier. Students are advised to contact the school's official representative to the IHSA on a confidential basis to notify them that they, a boy wants to play a girl's sport. You have to notify. You're advised to notify. Following receipt of the request for eligibility, the school shall submit a written request to the IHSA for an eligibility ruling. So that's just formalizing the school's awareness. The following information on the student, their parents, and or the school deem appropriate. So here, the opportunity, if they're selected through the team tryout process and accompanied by such of the following information as the student, their parent, and or the school deem appropriate. They deem appropriate, not the IHSA. Gender identity used for school registration records, documentation of consistent gender identity, medical documentation related to the student's gender identity, student statement affirming their gender identity, records of past participation in athletics or activities, such other information as the student, the parent, or the school, if involved, deem relevant. Then the IHSA will make a final ruling on the student's participation, and they're allegedly assessing whether the student, sort of what you were saying, is, authentically and not seeking to gain a competitive advantage by switching, boys to girls sports. Well, you really need to make a determination on that. Whether you're seeking it or not, you're going to enjoy one when you transition from you're a boy and you transition from boys to girls sports.
Well, we played a team once, not at the high school level, at the middle school level, where 2 boys were there, but they weren't transitioning. The coach was just doing this, to be so woke and look at me, I'm letting boys play in a girls' team when we have a boys' league too.
Well, here
But they weren't transitioning, so that's why I was like, oh God.
Well. So says you. So they may say something different. Their parents may say something different. The school may say something different. This is the point. The IHSA is not instituting any threshold to really clear. It's just putting policies and procedures in place so they can point to them while they're really abdicating their responsibility to make the determination. The determinations are being made by the interested parties. What kind of adjudication is that? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. So here's how it plays out. One concrete example.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's that's the policy, and I just say case-by-case basis, and we're going to make sure that nobody is advantaged by. That's nonsense. It's not possible. That's just one lie covering another lie. It is not possible to prevent a boy running cross-country with the girls, for example, a story I'm about to tell you. It's not possible to prevent him from being advantaged because he's better. I mean, he runs faster. He has more endurance. He has greater lung capacity. It's physiological. So in addition to perpetuating the lie that boys can be girls and vice versa, now we're going to have to perpetuate the lie that there's some unicornia scenario where boys are not going to be advantaged if they come over to the girls' side. So here it is. Cross country, which, by the way, my nephew, big cross country runner at Marmion, they won their sectionals.
Oh, that's huge, Dan.
They had four of their kids, boys, were in the top 25.
So they're going to state this weekend, aren't they? Then
they're going to state.
Yeah, good for them. Good for him. Are you going to go cheer him on?
No.
Okay.
The
end.
Yeah, I'm just going to live vicariously through his athletic
Achievements,
success
yes.
since I was, a mediocre failed athlete. So
That's
why
you
I'm
were
taking
only
an interest.
5'9" your freshman year.
I was 5'2"
I'm
my
sorry,
freshman year.
5'2". Excuse me, 5'2".
I was
You're just
5'2",
a
like
little
105
guy.
pounds. I was a little nugget.
You were
Yeah.
105 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I could pick you up.
Yeah.
Because I was
yeah.
5'11".
Yeah. And Amy Jacobson
Yeah.
wouldn't have given me the time of day,
No.
though.
Get away, you
I was a
peasant.
part of the cool kids.
You plebeian.
Yeah.
Ankle biter.
All right, anyway.
Okay.
Let's get back to the story here.
Cross country. Because it was
right.
boys and girls cross country this fall.
Well, yes. But so here's what information I got from a longtime track and field coach at the high school level. Last year, an athlete, a boy, competed on his high school's cross-country and track team. This fall, he competed as a girl in the girls' cross-country season under the new IHSA guidelines.
Okay.
At the sectional this past Saturday, the 11th individual finisher was a female athlete who was displaced by the transgender athlete, the boy running as a girl. So now that girl cross-country runner is not going to state, when if the boy wasn't running as a girl, she would be going to state. So how, especially,
How is this fair?
Parents of athletes, or if you were a better athlete than me yourself, and you had the chance to go down to state, I remember this, golf and basketball, how important was going to state? How like
soul crush. That is soul crushing. I feel sick for her because when you run cross country, you put in so many miles and you dedicate not weeks but months of your lives to the sport. Oh, that's awful.
So this happened. I'm not going to get into names because it's not there's no desire to demonize the boy who's running as a girl.
No, we don't know what school they go to.
I don't know. I do know what school he's going to. It's Westmont.
Oh.
It's Westmont High School. I'll tell you the school, but I'm not going to tell you his name. I'm not going to get into that because it's not about that. I mean, if you make a spectacle of yourself like Caitlyn Jenner or Leah Thomas, then we're going to talk about you. But I'm not looking to dox anybody, quote unquote, and we're really not doxing. We're not looking to demonize anybody. We're looking to say this doesn't make sense, and it's the adults in charge of the system that are failing the kids. Yeah, including this kid's parents, frankly. But I digress. All right, so this is Westmont High School. That's where this kid runs. It happened at the Westmont Regional, then again at the Kankakee Sectional. Listen to the, again, the whole, we're going to make sure that there's no advantage. This boy running as a girl in the regional third place, 19 minutes and 52 seconds. I guess that's 3 miles or something. That time would have been 24th in the boys' race. In the sectionals, he placed 4th running as a girl, 18 minutes and 39 seconds. That time would have been 55th in the boys' race. So third, it would have been 24th if he's running as a boy, which he is. 4th in the sectionals, it would have been 55th if he was running as a boy. And instead, he's taking the place of a girl going downstate. By the way, the girl's parents, who was finished 11th in the sectionals and was denied going downstate, they petitioned the IHSA to allow their daughter to compete at state because she finished in the top 10 of girls. Denied. The opinion of this track and field coach who communicated with me, who's been a track and field coach for a long time in Illinois, the bottom line is that the IHSA no longer supports girls' sports. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. What do you think about that, Coach?
I'm just still processing. I feel sick to my stomach. I didn't know that the parents went in and, tried to file an injunction to get it reversed.
I don't know if they went into. I don't think they went to court. I think they appealed to the IHSA in the interest of fairness and propriety. Shouldn't you let our daughter compete? Since she finished 10th and she was the 10th finishing girl, and the top 10 girls
had a boy
go to
in
state.
Yes. It's this weekend. It's tomorrow. Yeah, it's tomorrow. So I don't know if there's anything, if they can get a lawyer and try and reverse this before the unthinkable happens, but it makes me sick to my stomach. It's the beginning of the end of girls' sports.
Joe in Naperville.
Yeah, two quick things. I hope that parent of that girl gets a lawyer and sues civilly every single person who had a hand in that. That is ridiculous. And I think in protest, every single female athlete should wear a shirt that says, I'm a female athlete because I have a vagina. Every single female athlete should wear a shirt like that.
Thanks for the call, Joe. Appreciate
Max
it.
Preps, they don't have their roster up, so.
I'll tell you what. It's complicated because you don't want to deny girls the opportunity to compete at state that they earn, but it would be nice. We've talked about this before in the context of Leah Thomas and other such examples. They're now innumerable, but it would be nice if the girls just withdrew from the competition. Said, look, if you're if you're going to rig our sport against us and you're going to hurt some of our colleagues and fellow competitors, then we're just not going to participate.
Yeah, boycott would be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it doesn't seem like there's much impetus for it at present, but at some point, maybe there'll be critical mass when enough people have been harmed, like this girl who's on the outside looking in at state. Maybe enough people will be harmed, and some people will step up and say, well, it's obvious that the adults around here aren't going to do anything sensible, so it's up to us young people, it's up to us high schoolers or college athletes to take on the leadership here, like Riley Gaines is post her swimming career at Kentucky. I don't know. Jim in LaGrange.
Hey, Dan. Hey, Amy. Good morning. So I don't advocate for biological males playing in female sports, but if they're going to do it, why don't they throw a handicap, time-wise, on the biological males in that sport, like, kind of like a golf handicap, Dan? And all of a sudden, I bet you that there's not going to be a lot of people clamoring to go to the other side and try to win a girl's race when you're a dude.
Thanks for the call, Jim. But, that it's an interesting thought. I still don't like being party to a lie. But the problem with that is what? The problem with that is you're dealing with ideologues. Remember, they're starting from the premise that it's unclear that men have any advantage over women in sports. And in point of fact, some of these trans advocates say there is no proof that men have an advantage, a physical advantage over women in sports. I mean, they say it. It's obviously not true, but they say it.
I mean, come on.
But I mean, but this is what you're up against. If you made a proposal like that, if you made a proposal like that, like Jim made, that's what you would get in response.
Well, I want to know how far. I mean, this family, TikTok goes the clock. They better, if they're going to file anything, they should have their lawyer in a courtroom today, because did he present a medical letter saying he's transitioning? I mean, I'm under the understanding that you can't just say I feel like a guy or feel like a girl, so I'm going to start running with a girls team now.
I just read you the guidelines.
I know you just read me the guidelines, but if I were, I might press that.
And then what's clear from the guidelines is if the parents and the school conspire to promote a boy running for the girls cross country team, then that's what the IHSA is going to do.
All right.
They're going to allow it. That's what's happening. That's the reality. This guidelines, the guidelines that the IHSA promulgated just to cover their ass. They're pathetic. Cynthia at Palos Park.
Hi, good morning, guys. Yeah, this really makes me angry, especially for these young female runners. I'm a 66-year-old woman, and I still race competitively, but I know that I can't beat anybody younger than me, and I can't beat anybody that is a male. In my age category against other females, I can usually win a place, and that really is exciting for an old gal like me.
Yeah.
So what a shame. What an absolute shame. Thank you.
Thanks
Got
for
a
the
text
call,
message.
Cynthia.
Dan and Amy, all the girls should withdraw and have their own competition among themselves. Well, that's not going to happen because they've worked just as hard to go to state, to get scholarships for college. And it's something that they'll talk about for the rest of their lives. Like, yeah, I qualified for state.
Yeah, at some point, though, maybe if there was a little bit more adult leadership, we could get them together and play clips of the person who stops running in the middle of a race to help somebody who fell down and hurt themselves, because I'm more concerned about whether the person is hurt than they are about winning the race. At some point, you're going to see somebody do something like that, because there's enough good people out there that recognize the sort of more transcendental importance of sports beyond ribbons and college scholarships. By the way, if the I assume it's only 9. I assume it's 9 women and 1 dude in this cross country state.
Yes.
But maybe there are more. I don't know. But if the girls got together and did their own thing, what that texter suggested, that would be international news. Number one. Their times are their times. I don't think that's going to imperil any college scholarships for schools that are looking at them for track and field events or cross country team. So but I understand. I understand why you don't want to do it. I understand that this is a young person's dream to competitive athlete to be to compete at that level at state, because very few kids get to do it. But at some point, somebody is going to break the seal on this and do something along the lines that I suggest. And, look forward to that day. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. World leaders, including Joe Biden, urge Israel to pause its war operations for humanitarian negotiations with Hamas. However, these terrorists made clear their overall goal. Hamas spokesman Ghazi Hamad told Lebanon TV they will repeat the October 7 massacre as often as needed to remove Israel from the region and to annihilate all Israelis. How did American media outlets cover this? With the exception of a single mention by NBC News, they ignored Hamad's declaration entirely. Neither the New York Times nor the Washington Post made a single mention of it. The same is true of CNN, ABC, and CBS. The history of ceasefires between Hamas and Israel demonstrates that the terrorists use them to load up for their next attack operation. And Hamad's declaration shows their purpose. Our outlets have hundreds of stories between them highlighting calls for ceasefire and not a single report on why it would be futile. Elite media in America have chosen a side. They have sided with the monsters of October 7.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu. AM 560. The Answer.
Another idea from an emailer. Make shirts ahead of the state final in cross country, women's cross country, that say where's the girl's name that's finished 10th is not allowed to run. Let her run, something like that to draw attention to her.
Yeah, it's
an
tomorrow in Peoria. So hopefully something will happen, but we'll keep you posted. All right, it is now 6 a.m. WIND Chicago.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken back in Israel. I'm Dave Anthony. Fox News, his third visit since Hamas's terror attack started a war.
Trying to encourage the Israelis to allow more aid into the Gaza Strip and some of those foreigners to get out.
Dozens of Americans among the foreign nationals allowed to leave Gaza go to Egypt yesterday. Fox's Trey Yingst also reports near Gaza.
Lots of flares launched overnight as the Israelis push deeper into Gaza, engaging those Hamas militants who popped out of tunnels and ambushed the troops.
It's now 24 Israeli soldiers killed this week. Officials inside Gaza say more than 9,000 Palestinians have died in the conflict, more than a third of them children. The House has approved $14 billion in military aid to Israel, funded with cuts to the IRS.
If Democrats in the Senate or the House or anywhere else want to argue that hiring more IRS agents is more important than standing with Israel in this moment, I'm ready to have that debate.
House Speaker Mike Johnson, a dozen Democrats joined Republicans approving the bill, considered, though, dead on arrival at the Senate because it does not bundle that Israeli aid with more funding for Ukraine's war like President Biden wants. And the President and First Lady Jill Biden will go to Maine today. Fox's Gernal Scott has more.
The Bidens will be in Lewiston, which, as the city continues to mourn 18 lives lost in the country's deadliest mass shooting of 2023. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said beyond providing comfort for victims' families and survivors,
the president will also meet with the brave first responders, dedicated nurses, and others on the front lines of the response.
From king of crypto to convict, Sam Bankman-Fried found guilty of fraud and conspiracy in federal court in New York in the collapse of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange. U.S. Attorney Damian Williams.
It's a warning, this case, to every single fraudster out there who thinks that they're untouchable.
Bankman-Fried faces decades in prison at sentencing. America's listening to Fox News.
47 degrees at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Tensions ran high over Chicago's status as a sanctuary city. Special city council meeting yesterday about the matter spiraled into chaos. Several aldermen want a non-binding referendum added to next spring's ballot to decide Chicago's sanctuary city designation.
We have 20,000 migrants today. So what is the price tag on that now? And we can't get solid answers.
The city council struggled to even meet a quorum to conduct business. Alderman Brendan Riley argued the decades-old ordinance didn't anticipate today's illegal migrant crisis, and citizens deserve a vote.
That policy was set back in 1987. Things have changed dramatically. I don't think we ever envisioned 20,000 migrants being sent to Chicago in buses.
The meeting ended with shouts and accusations, and the mayor in Washington, D.C.
This financial dynamic has caused a tremendous burden on our local economy.
Johnson and other big city mayors want $5 billion more in federal funding for aid to migrants. City of Chicago will lease land on the southwest side, where officials plan to build a migrant base camp. City signing a $91,000 a month deal to lease land in the Brighton Park neighborhood. Federal indictment has been filed against Village of Riverdale Mayor Lawrence Jackson. In May of 2022, the FBI raided Jackson's house. A day before the raid, federal prosecutors sent a subpoena to the Village of Riverdale for business records related to tri-state disposal. It's a years-long fight over garbage pickup in the south suburb. Joliet police at the center of a civil rights lawsuit after a family accused them of wrongfully raiding their home. According to Zach and Al Holfield, attorneys representing the family, the officers were investigating a shooting of two 22-year-olds at a Halloween party that happened 2 days earlier. When they arrived on Adele Carrasco's front porch and shouted, they had an arrest warrant.
I asked them to show me a warrant. They didn't show me nothing. They just pushed me aside and went in. And I'm screaming the whole time, to put down the guns because I'm scared that they're going to shoot my grandkids.
Armed law enforcement were supposed to be executing an arrest warrant for someone who actually lived next door to Carrasco. Hofeld says officers entered her residence and arrested someone next door as well, but then continued to hold Carrasco and her grandchildren, detaining them for 6 hours.
They immediately took him into custody, took him to the police station, held him there, questioned him. And while that's going on, they're holding the family in 226. And they held the family for almost 6 hours.
The family filed FOIA requests, but Hofeld claims their requests for information have been stonewalled for years. Pair of Chicago baseball players won Comeback Player of the Year in baseball. White Sox reliever Liam Hendriks in the American League, while Cubs outfielder Cody Bellinger won the NL Award. Bulls tip off the NBA in-season tournament with a game against Brooklyn at the UC tonight. The news, a service of the AM 560 Advantage, where membership has its privileges. Join today at 560theanswer.com/join. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Breakthrough Ideas, Linex of Roselle, and by the law offices of Stephen Leahy.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
All right, Christmas will be here before we know it. If you're looking for a really special gift, I encourage you to check out the firearms made right here in America by our great friends at Henry Repeating Arms. Now, you start by going to their website, henryusa.com, order their free holiday gift guide, and they'll mail it with free decals that you can use for stocking stuffers. Perfect timing. Folks, when you give someone a Henry, you're giving them a work of art that is built with the finest craftsmanship I've ever seen as a collector. Now, their performance is top-notch. Mine were accurate, all of them, right out of the box. They shoot smooth and straight, and they have been reliable ever since. They have over 200 models of rifles and shotguns and revolvers to choose from. One of the things I like the most about these firearms, they're family heirlooms. They'll always be backed by the company's lifetime warranty. So if you want to put something that's made in America under the tree this Christmas, henryusa.com. Get their free gift guide and their decals today. That's henryusa.com. You will love this company.
Urgent Camp Lejeune settlement message. On September 6th, the government announced it will soon begin providing fast, guaranteed settlements to Camp Lejeune Marines, families, and civilians. Awards will range between $100,000 and $550,000, with an option for higher amounts. If you or a loved one spent time at Camp Lejeune and suffered cancers of the bladder, liver, or kidneys, leukemia, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Parkinson's, or kidney issues, you may qualify for compensation and could be paid within 60 days after accepting your settlement, with your VA benefits fully protected. You may be entitled to a significant financial award for your Camp Lejeune claim, but you must act now. Call the James Harris Law Camp Lejeune helpline now to get the compensation you deserve. We're already fighting for thousands harmed by the water at Camp Lejeune. Call now or you may forever lose your right to be awarded a settlement between $100,000 and $550,000. For your free evaluation, call 800-299-7878. That's 800-299-7878. 800-299-7878.
6:09 and a check on the roads now. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Kennedy right now, accident, left lane blocked, inbound at Ohio. 30 minutes and climbing from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Dan Ryan Express lanes already gummed up 43rd into the Stevenson. Tri-State accident left lane block northbound 294 between Cermak and Roosevelt. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with our AccuWeather meteorologist, Steve Williams.
Today, mostly cloudy, rather breezy. Our high today, 58. Cloudy skies for tonight and tomorrow. Low tonight, 44. High tomorrow at 55. More clouds than sun on Sunday. High Sunday afternoon, 60. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
47 at O'Hare, 44 at Midway, 41 in Aurora. Your next news update, 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Brew some at home today. A family tradition since 1897. Online at papanicholas.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Well, when it comes to BLM Brandon and his forthcoming Gimme Dat base camps around the city, what he was saying yesterday about, or the other day about the city of Chicago is like that cable show,
the HGTV.
Property Brothers, you gotta, you occupy something and you find out all that's wrong with it. So we got to do these environmental assessments on that site at 38th and California before we move forward with completion of the project and build that base camp to house up to a couple thousand migrants. Well, that turns out to not be true.
Yeah, Mayor Johnson lied, everybody. This just in. So 4 hours before Wednesday's press conference, 4 hours before, the city signed a deal to rent that piece of land for $91,000 a month.
No. Not 4 hours before. The deal to lease the land was signed on October 26th, according to a copy of the lease agreement.
Well, according to NBC5 Investigates, they said it was 4 hours before that he was notified of it. But whatever, he lied. Here's the lie. Just listen to the big lie.
And what's the latest on the 38th and California site?
Just say it.
Still assessing.
So
I think this was raised before. There are a lot of environmental dynamics in the city of Chicago that have gone unaddressed for a very long time. Sometimes my wife asks me, she's like, what is it like being mayor?
Oh my God.
I said, it's like an HGTV special. You ever watch different shows like Property Brothers? You watch Property Brothers? And you know how you acquire a particular property, and then it looks like this is great potential, and then you knock down a wall, and then you notice and you discover that there are dynamics that have been unaddressed. That's what Chicago is like right now. That we have this incredible edifice, but so many of our neighborhoods have been neglected that there are environmental concerns. And so I have to do my due diligence to make
It's a lie. Why not just say it's a signed deal? The contract's done.
Maybe he's being kept in the dark the same way that Alderman Julia Ramirez is saying she's been kept in the dark. She doesn't know about the plan. She doesn't know about the lease. She doesn't know about anything. Maybe she should start asking around the fifth floor about what's going on here. And maybe BLM Brandon should as well. He we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. He doesn't know what's happening underneath him. This is staff, I guess, freelancing, because you have to, of course, take BLM Brandon at his word that he's very concerned about the any potential environmental questions.
I love this one Brighton Park resident. He just said it like it was. Well, once the Brighton Park residents found out, it's already, the ink is already dried on the paper.
If there is one thing that residents and alders and asylum seekers all have in common right now, it's that nobody knows what's going on, and it's because the city won't tell us what's happening.
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line.
Actually, you do know what's going on. And everybody knew what was going on when they showed up to that community meeting at Kelly High School the other day. They know what's going on. You see the construction. You don't know what's going on? What? Oh, you're taking the city's assurances that we're still evaluating and environmental this and assessment that. You know what's going on if you've lived in the city of Chicago for 5 minutes. The deal is done. The solicitation of input from the residents is performative, and we're all moving on. So get on the bus or get under it. That's what's going on. Of course that's what's going on. By the way, this $91,000 a month lease on this property at 38th in California, Barn Acres Corporation is the landowner.
Okay. Whose cousin is that?
Well, we had this call last week that suggested that Barn Acres might be owned by Michael Tayden and Al Sanchez. I can't confirm that yet, but we're sort of looking into that. They have a Markham address for their corporate headquarters where they house industrial companies, including Sanchez Paving. Yeah, so, obviously in Chicago, too, anybody who's been here for 5 minutes, you want to ask those questions. The policies can only be properly understood if you have information on who's getting paid. That's what drives public policy making in Chicago, even under these ideological Marxists. You still got to sprinkle the infield, and you still have all the rent seekers and all the relationships at City Hall that know how to position themselves regardless of administration. So everybody is on notice that either BLM Brandon is just straight up lying to you, or
he's left in the dark.
You're right. He's not the shot caller when it comes to this stuff, and staff and any other shadowy figures that may be lurking around the administration are driving this thing forward. So if you're in Morgan Park and you think 115th and Halstead isn't going to happen,
it's happening.
Probably. And
the Broadcast Museum, it's happening, folks.
And the rest of the city. Remember, they're focused on equity. So the longer this goes, the more likely it is this comes to a neighborhood near you if it hasn't already.
Well,
312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line, 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line.
Well, 2 aldermen are trying to stop it. They want to put it on the ballot to let us Chicagoans decide if we want to continue being a sanctuary city. But they had a really hard time getting people to attend the special council yesterday. And then they never even had enough. They never even took a vote because they turned the lights out.
They didn't turn the lights off on us. They didn't turn the lights on us like it's a club. Did they turn the lights on us? They turned the lights out.
Oh, my God.
Is this real?
This is a real circus. This is how it is every day.
This is crazy.
Dan, I watched it so you didn't have to. It was just chaos for hours.
Please.
And people just...
Please. I mean, just spare me the hand-wringing from any of these alderhumans. Yeah. Oh, Tony Beale and Ray Lopez are going back and forth with socialist Ramirez Rosa, and it takes forever to get a quorum, and then they abdicate, and Ramirez Rosa says it's over, and Beale says, no, we're adjourned till Tuesday, and so on and so forth. Give me a break.
Well, some aldermen had to leave because, they had things to do. And this is great.
No, they didn't have things to do.
No, they didn't. But they made up that they had things to do, Dan. There's potholes out there.
I'm leaving because right now I have potholes, trees to get trimmed, and I have a host of other things that our residents in the 6th Ward want me to deal with.
Yeah,
Alderman Hall.
Right, he is Alderman Hall is going to fill those potholes and trim those trees, right? I mean, this is an electorate that these politicians know very well. So when you see how they behave and you're surprised or you're feigning surprise, just remember the baseline. They know very well who their constituents are. Think about that when you watch their conduct. Oh, by the way,
they even showed up.
A related story.
Yeah.
This is good news. I mean, in the interest of equity, which I know is important to that electorate I was just describing. The migrants, again, not all migrants are criminals, and some here are in good faith. Maybe there's some honest to good asylum seekers that have a legitimate claim under our asylum laws. So it's a mixed bag, as I've always said. So, for those who can't deal on the merits of this issue and just want to run around saying xenophobe because they're infants, that's fine. But it is nice to see that there is equity being applied here, and I'm sure all the leftists in the city would agree that the migrants are being treated exactly like criminals in Chicago, like this Venezuelan migrant who's been arrested 4 times since May, and prosecutors have dropped the case every single time.
Real nice guy. Yeah.
19-year-old first crossed paths with police officers May 17th in the Loop. Nordstrom Rack employee told the individual, told police the individual tried to walk out with a jumpsuit and a jacket worth $138. He was released on his own recognizance, and then prosecutors dropped the case. A few weeks later, he's arrested again across the street from the Standard Club migrant shelter. He got into a fight inside Pritzker Park. How ironic. That could reasonably cause bodily injury to or endanger the safety of another. He was released on his own recognizance, and that case was dropped. He got arrested again while that case was pending at Ulta Beauty on North Michigan, accused of trying to shoplift merchandise worth $115. He was released from the station on his own recognizance, and then the case was dropped. 6 days later, cops saw the same guy pop open the handicapped access gate at Jackson Red Line Station and head to the platform without paying fare. They arrested him. He appeared before the judge, who to consider whether his pretrial release should be revoked because he allegedly committed a new offense while the reckless conduct case was still pending. But no. Prosecutors dropped the reckless conduct case and the CTA fair infraction to dispense with all this ugliness altogether. So again, Cook County justice system is equal injustice before the law on behalf of criminals, whether they're here legally or not, and against the law abiding. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that Kim Fox wasn't playing favorites.
And there's another Venezuelan who's at Oak Brook Mall stealing thousands of dollars worth of stuff. How did he get out there in a car? How did he get that car?
Stephen Roselle.
Yeah, good morning, Dan and Amy. This $91,000 a month is more than $1 million a year. So which is worse, the mayor lying or the mayor not knowing about $1 million contracts?
Well, a little bit of both.
Yeah, thanks for the call. And I'm trying to get a handle on the market value of that property, too, to try to assess whether that lease is market rate. It is a big property.
It's acres of land. I mean, it's huge. So,
yeah,
I don't know.
We'll see. Well, that's why we're looking into it. Peggy in Chicago. Oh, Peggy.
Yeah, I just want you to know that, before we had Ellis Island, where these people would be, bedded, and now they're coming into the general population, and they're bringing in all kinds of little creepy, crawly bugs that we've never seen before. And once you do that, I mean, you're going to start going on the buses, and you will soon be seeing stuff in your body. And,
yeah, well, another reason not to take government transportation, as if I needed another one. Dan and Amy, Chicago's Morning Answer.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. World leaders, including Joe Biden, urge Israel to pause its war operations for humanitarian negotiations with Hamas. However, these terrorists made clear their overall goal. Hamas spokesman Ghazi Hamad told Lebanon TV they will repeat the October 7 massacre as often as needed to remove Israel from the region and to annihilate all Israelis. How did American media outlets cover this? With the exception of a single mention by NBC News, they ignored Hamad's declaration entirely. Neither the New York Times nor the Washington Post made a single mention of it. The same is true of CNN, ABC, and CBS. The history of ceasefires between Hamas and Israel demonstrates that the terrorists use them to load up for their next attack operation. And Hamad's declaration shows their purpose. Our outlets have hundreds of stories between them highlighting calls for ceasefire and not a single report on why it would be futile. Elite media in America have chosen a side. They have sided with the monsters of October 7.
Publicpolicy.pepperdine.edu.
I can't wait to do it. Take my balance of nature. Why? Did not get any fruits or vegetables yesterday, and that's where balance of nature comes in. 31 whole fruits and vegetables in those bad boys. I take 6 capsules, 3 red, 3 green, and voila, I have increased energy. And when you give your body the best possible fuel, fruits and veggies, you do have more energy. At least I do, and I feel stronger. And a lot of people that take it tell me the same thing, that they would be lost without their balance of nature. So be one of the cool kids and order your bottles of fruits and veggies today. 800-246-8751. 800-246-8751. Be sure to use discount code Chicago, 35% off and free shipping for the first timers, or go online to balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.
If you're self-employed and purchase your own health insurance, I have some great news. From now until January 15th, the health insurance exchanges are open again. And even if you've never qualified for a health insurance subsidy before, you most likely will now. The American Rescue Plan expanded subsidy eligibility to millions of Americans who have never qualified before, even to those with high income levels. And this year, you can purchase a multi-state PPO policy, which includes access to Northwestern Medical Group, as well as other teaching hospitals around the nation. Employers who provide small group coverage also have new options, and so do seniors looking for Medicare supplement coverage. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Obamacare, then you need a local expert on your side. C. Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 25-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than 10 years. Steve, how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551.
When you're serious about your concealed carry training and education and are ready to learn from an active police officer with a teaching degree, check out Illinois Concealed Carry Training in Midlothian. You'll learn safe, responsible firearm use, home defense planning, conflict avoidance, situational awareness, and how to remain physically, morally, and financially safe in the event you must use your firearm in self-defense or the defense of another. Weekday and weekend classes available.
I'm Sergeant Gary Carr, police firearms trainer and the owner of Illinois Concealed Carry Training. We'll arm you with what really counts, knowledge and training. All concealed carry curriculums are not created equal. This may be the single most important decision you'll ever make for yourself and your loved ones. Choose between 3 and 16-hour classes that are available both weekdays and weekends. We are your one-stop for concealed carry classes, fingerprints, and legal defense plans.
Register for a class today and get 10% off class fees with promo code AM560. Visit IllinoisConcealedCarry.com. That's IllinoisConcealedCarry.com.
You've heard me talk about my love of coffee over and over again. I'm here to tell you I have discovered one of the best brews I've ever tasted and a company that I cannot wait to support. I'm here to tell you about Bone Frog Coffee. The Bone Frog is a sacred symbol in the SEAL teams. It honors those that gave the ultimate sacrifice, their lives. Bone Frog was founded by Tim Crook Shank, a former Navy SEAL and 25-year Navy veteran. Bone Frog honors the fallen, those who gave everything for our freedoms and our American way of life, by giving 10% of all the proceeds to benefit many of the U.S. Navy SEAL foundations. Here's what I need you to do. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Get 10% off your first order. You will also get 15% off Bone Frog Coffee subscriptions. Just enter Liberty at checkout. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. That's bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty. Taste one of the best brews you ever tasted. 10% of the proceeds go to benefit the Navy SEALs. You'll feel good. It's an American company. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/liberty.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and Amy, big fan of Remy over at Reason Magazine. You know, he does these parody music videos.
We had him on the show, remember?
Yeah, we've had him on.
Yeah.
And
He's got
sort of a political Weird Al Yankovic. He does, and I'm not familiar with Taylor Swift's oeuvre, but this is a parody of a Taylor Swift song. And it really, I think, speaks to Chicago, and I'm sure it will speak to the residents of Chicago. When we talk about crime that is endemic or imported, and who the responsible party really is, because we know it's not the person who commits crimes.
I was on a walk so brisk, just minding my business, out with my walking stick. Can't you see? Innocently, but I not just human, oh it's true, yes I am just a man. What else could one do seeing luggage in a minivan? I have no choice in the matter, do you not understand? I check it once, then I check it twice. Ooh, look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me. They don't want to steal whiskey, but they must feed their family. My newborn loves Pappy. He's a boy and he likes blue. How do you expect someone not to shatter all this glass when he sees this while only carrying the 14 max? Any chance you might step up to defend property rights? I check it once, then I check it twice. Ooh, look what I always do. Look what I always do. Just look at what I like to. Look at what I like to do.
Yeah, we're in trouble.
Look what I always do. Look what I always do. Just look at what I like to. Look at what I like to do.
Yeah, I'm looking to move.
And then at the end, somebody steals his cell phone while he's on the call. Just, you got to see the video to fully appreciate it, but you get the gist of it. Look what we're making these people do.
Yes. A guy
Wonderful.
smashing, stealing stuff, luggage out of people's cars. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Stuff from stores, whiskey from liquor stores. It goes.
Yeah, I got to steal the whiskey to feed your family. You know, the baby likes Pappy Van Winkle. Wonderful.
Coming
Wonderful
up
lyrics.
on Chicago's Morning Answer.
At 6:36, Xi Van Fleet survived the Cultural Revolution in China. Can she survive living in Northern Virginia much longer? She'll talk about her new book about American Maoism at 6:36.
But first, let's stop by that newsroom. Check in with Mike Scott. Good morning, Mike.
38 degrees at 6:31. Tensions running high over Chicago's status as a sanctuary city. Alderman Anthony Beale and Ray Lopez and others want a non-binding referendum added to next spring's ballot that would decide Chicago's sanctuary city designation.
We have 20,000 migrants today. So what is the price tag on that now? And we can't get solid answers.
Alderman Brendan Riley yesterday argued the decades-old ordinance didn't anticipate today's illegal migrant crisis, and citizens deserve a vote.
That policy was set back in 1987. Things have changed dramatically. I don't think we ever envisioned 20,000 migrants being sent to Chicago in buses.
The meeting yesterday ended with shouts and accusations, and the mayor in Washington, D.C., pleading for more federal government help.
This financial dynamic has caused a tremendous burden on our local economy.
In Washington, the House overwhelmingly approved a resolution condemning support for Hamas, Hezbollah, and terror organizations on college campuses. Meantime, classes at Cornell University in New York are canceled today after anti-Semitic threats and due to extraordinary stress after a student there, Patrick Dye, was arrested over alleged violent threats against Jewish students on campus. A former Pennsylvania nurse is accused of killing 17 nursing home patients. The Pennsylvania Attorney General's office Thursday announcing new charges against 41-year-old Heather Presti. The charges include 2 counts of murder and 17 counts of attempted murder. Federal authorities are investigating a pair of robberies against mail carriers in Chicago. The investigators are offering a $150,000 reward for information leading to the arrest and conviction of suspects in 2 fall 2022 robberies. Students at Lockport Township High School Central Campus evacuated after part of the ceiling collapsed. School leaders say they're working with Lockport Fire and the city engineer to find out why. With daylight saving time coming to an end this weekend, Illinois State Fire Marshal is reminding you to test, inspect, and replace any broken or expired smoke or CO2 alarms. If your alarm was manufactured before October of 2013, it's time. A pair of Chicago baseball players named Comeback Player of the Year. White Sox reliever Liam Hendricks won the AL award, while Cubs outfielder Cody Bellinger won the National League Award. The Bulls tip off the brand new NBA in-season tournament tonight in new uniforms with a game against the Brooklyn Nets at the UC. College football, Fighting Illini travel to the Twin Cities to take on Minnesota tomorrow, and Northwestern heads to the Diamond as they take on Iowa in the Wildcat Classic at Wrigley Field. The news, a service of Star Case. When you need to protect your valuable equipment, put it in a Star Case, the most dependable road cases you can buy. Designed and made right here in the Midwest. Go to starcase.com to order your case now. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
This radio station is always on, but sometimes you need more content that you can take with you anywhere. That's why we invented the SalemPodcastNetwork.com. You'll find all the great hosts on this radio station, plus a few more, like Charlie Kirk, Dinesh D'Souza, Trish Regan, Jenna Ellis, and Dennis and Julie. There's literally no end to what we can teach you. It's like radio on demand, and just like radio, it's always on. Go find out what you're missing. Download the app, SalemPodcastNetwork.com.
It seems like everyone is on a complicated diet these days. Gluten-free, keto, metabolic, sugar-free. And with these diets comes special dietary protocol and food products. You can find plenty of advice on your social media sites, but you need expertise to purchase the right food items. A visit to Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop is necessary to shop the best food choices for a medical diet or health plan. Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop stocks all the hard-to-find foods you're looking for, like wheat and dairy alternatives, sugar-free baking mixes, healthy snacks, and more. There's no longer a reason to put off that diet you're supposed to be on when you have Lil's. The staff has personally researched and vetted each item in the store and has plenty of choices in stock.
Lil's Dietary Specialty Shop on 111th Street in Mount Greenwood on the south side of Chicago. Stop in and shop in person or order online at lilsdietary.com and get your items shipped right to your home. lilsdietary.com. Shop, learn, and be healthy.
At SimpliSafe, our award-winning home security has advanced sensors, HD cameras, and now this 24/7 LiveGuard protection, only from SimpliSafe. Monitoring agents can see and speak to intruders through our indoor camera to help stop crime in real time and for fast police response. Now get 50% off any new system with Fast Protect monitoring at simplisafe.com/radio. Advanced home security, 24/7 professional monitoring for less than $1 a day. There's no safe like SimpliSafe.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Did you know most vitamin supplements have a warning label on the back? That's because without the synergy of thousands of nutrients working together that are found naturally in whole fruits and vegetables, vitamins are not balanced. This is why Balance of Nature only uses whole fruits and vegetables, no isolates or synthetic vitamins of any kind. We take a variety of 31 of the highest quality fruits and vegetables and remove the water without changing the rich chemistry. It's then ground to a powder, blended to perfection, and encapsulated, preserving the nutrients and making it easy to get the fruits and vegetables you need. So even though Balance of Nature comes in a capsule and looks like a vitamin, it's very different. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Exergen thermometers are a top choice of medical professionals at highly ranked hospitals across the U.S. Accuracy matters, so make Exergen the chosen thermometer for your home and family.
6:38, let's get an update on the roads. A service of Audible. Here's celebrity memoirs, true crime, and more. Ignite your imagination with audiobooks. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com. Mundelein, an accident, Town Line Road, west of Butterfield, prompting an emergency response. Tri-State, an accident with a left lane block. It's northbound between I-88 and Roosevelt this morning. Bishop Ford and I-57 jamming into the Ryan merge. Ryan now 20 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Eden, solid traffic between Cicero and Montrose, 24 in from Lake Cook Road. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Breezy this morning, otherwise mostly cloudy today, high 58, and a low of 44 overnight. 47 at O'Hare. Next news at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Get Down to Business with Shalom Klein, the show for business powered by Mirabali Insurance. Sunday evenings at 6.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. The West can't say it hasn't been warned over and over and over again about the cultural revolutionaries in our midst. James Lindsay, who's an author and commentator on culture, he was part of a panel discussion about these cultural revolutionaries of the left, the new Marxists. He part of a panel discussion before the European Parliament a couple months back. We went over his testimony back then, but let's refresh our recollections in advance of our next guest. James Lindsay describing what we call wokeism, so many people call wokeism, what it actually is.
So here's the definition of equity, and see if it sounds like a definition of anything else you've ever heard of. The definition of equity comes from the public administration literature. It was written by a man named George Frederickson. And the definition is an administered political economy in which shares are adjusted so that citizens are made equal. Does that sound like anything you've heard of before? Like socialism? They're going to administer an economy to make shares equal. The only difference between equity and socialism is the type of property that they redistribute, the type of shares. They're going to redistribute social and cultural capital in addition to economic and material capital. And so this is my thesis when we say, what is woke? Woke is Maoism with American characteristics, if I might borrow from Mao himself, who said that his philosophy was Marxism-Leninism with Chinese characteristics, which means woke is Marxism. And it's a very provocative statement.
Maoism with American characteristics. Yeah, that is about right. I mean, Maoism, the difference between Maoism and Marxism is basically just the focus. Mao was more focused on the agrarian and Marx on the urban. Social and cultural property, but also actual, right? If you're in the business of equalizing. So on that cultural private property, here comes identitarianism.
Wrote a long article for the Harvard Law Review called Whiteness is Property. She explained that whiteness, or white privilege, constitutes a kind of cultural private property. She says it must be abolished in order to have racial justice. Just like Karl Marx said that in the Communist Manifesto, he wrote, communism can be summarized in a single sentence, the abolition of private property. Well, this is why critical race theory calls to abolish whiteness, because whiteness is a form of private property.
He was talking about Cheryl Harris, by the way, with that Harvard, that piece by that Harvard scholar. I use that term loosely. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Xi Van Fleet, Chinese by birth, American by choice, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution when she was just a teenager, and a defender of liberty. Her new book, right along the lines of what James Lindsay was saying, Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. Xi Van Fleet, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I said before the break, Xi Van Fleet survived Mao's Cultural Revolution. How much longer can she survive living in Northern Virginia? What's the answer to that question?
Yes, that's why I'm fighting, because I do not want to live under communism again. And so that's exactly my warning is. We are in the midst of a revolution, and the goal is to overthrow our system, to replace it by Marxist and communist ideology. And also, by the way, Dr. James Lindsay wrote the foreword for my book.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Well, so speak to what you experienced as a teenager in China and what you're seeing in America today, the parallels that you see.
Okay, get ready. All this that I experienced is now familiar to everyone in America. Identity politics, okay? So the entire Chinese population was divided into two groups. By then, it's not called oppressor, but it's based on the same ideology. Those who deemed as enemy of the state and those who are the allies of the state. So who were the enemy? The government. Mao decide. Anyone he did not like, anyone that the people think Mao did not like, are all grouped together as the enemy, and they are called the black class, and the rest were the red class. So the whole Cultural Revolution was really the struggle between the black class and a red class. And the black class were the enemy. They were the ones being persecuted by the Red Guards. Millions of them get killed in the process. Other is cancel culture. Everything that's traditional, everything that's old, has to be destroyed, to be replaced by Maoism, the most pure Marxism. That's what we were told. And chaos. You've got to have chaos if you want to have a revolution. That's why Mao released all the Red Guards, 10 million strong, to go to the city and destroy everything, toppling down the statues, changing institutional names, looted people's homes in search of anything old, and in the process, kill so many of the people, started with their teachers and their principals.
And weren't you physically forced to the countryside with other young Chinese for re-education?
Yes. And okay, the story goes on. Okay, so the Red Guards did what Mao wanted them to do. But then they really create a monster that they can no longer control. They start to fight each other and started to really a civil war in China. And so what Mao did, Mao used military and suppressed them and sent the rest to the countryside to be re-educated by the peasants. And after I graduated from high school, the same thing. No jobs. Everything was in ruins. What to do with the young people? Send them all to the countryside. And so I was pretty much the last group that was sent to the countryside, and I worked in the countryside in a primitive condition. Don't think about the countryside in America as all beautiful nature. No, it is like Stone Age primitive. And I worked there for 3 years until Mao died, and I was able to go to college. That's my experience of the Cultural Revolution.
So let me just process the progression and get your comment on it. So it's separation, right? The red and the black. Then the red attacks the black to create chaos and instill fear. Mm-hmm. Then the despot comes in to reestablish stability. And then people are killed or sent away, and you've achieved full subjugation of your populace. Is that about the process?
Pretty much. And in the process, our civilization was destroyed.
Well, yeah.
Institutions destroyed. Order destroyed. And, it's basically total chaos. Mao thought that's the problem. Mao thought he could just release the chaos, and then he would control it and then build a new order. It's never what you really going to happen as you planned, right? It's out of control. Just like here, the progressives thought now they have an army of the woke army. But look at right now. They create such a monster, they no longer can control it. The Biden administration condemned Hamas. They have to. Yeah, and then the mainstream media kind of condemned, but not those protests on the streets. They support terrorism. They support killing, raping, and kidnapping, and no one can control them. And that's only the first step. The next step is they are going to commit violence, just like the Red Guard.
Do you think we're heading to World War III?
Looks like so. I don't know, but at least in the inside America, we can see that the Red Guard, American Red Guard, has taken a very, very important step. That they celebrate violence, that they started to attack Jewish students on campuses. That is absolutely a very, very important step. And where it leads to, just check out the Cultural Revolution and the story of the Red Guards, which I explained in my book.
So the educated classes, the elites in Mao's China, what was their posture as this chaos was being instigated? Was it what we see in America, where you have some that are ideologically aligned, so they are proponents, essentially, or at least apologists? Was it some who were fearful and so didn't speak up? Was it a combination of the two? What was the dynamic?
I think it's both, but the Chinese Cultural Revolution is really a huge revolution. Mao mobilized tens of millions of young people to carry out his revolution. And those are the educated ones, they college, high school, or as young as middle school. And this weaponization of youth is because they were from the government school. They have been so thoroughly brainwashed, and they will follow Mao's order no matter what, even if it means kill your own parents, and many of them did that. And that is the same kind of toxic ideology driven the young people that we see on the streets and on campuses. And so they don't have the thought of their own. They just follow the ideology by determining who is the oppressor, who is the oppressed. And then by the oppressor, it's not a thinking. No thinking is involved. And then so no matter what, if this is the oppressor, anything done to them is justified.
So that dynamic during the Cultural Revolution was similar. It was the oppressors and the oppressed, and we must throw off the chains of the oppressors, as so defined by Mao.
The party.
The party. And so for those in America today who are skeptical that it could go as far off the rails as something like the Cultural Revolution, what do you say to them? Did you see that same sort of skepticism in China during Mao in the early days, where people said, well, I disagree with him. I don't support that. But I mean, it's not like we're not going to start killing each other. He's not, people are overreacting to Mao, sort of the same dismissive rhetoric you get from many on the left today.
Well, not quite, because by then China has been ruled by Mao for 17 years. And you have only one choice. If your choice is disagree, you know where you'll end up, in jail or in graves. So everybody just kind of follow along. So during the Cultural Revolution, it's not like you're against the party. It's like the party thinks you're against the party. And it's people think you're against the party.
No, right.
You see what I mean?
No, I understand. But I'm talking about in the early, so well in advance of the precipice of the Cultural Revolution. When he was brandishing his little red book around town in the early days when he came to power, was there sort of was there any concern that these were the Cultural Revolution as it proceeded were actually his intentions, or were people dismissive about others who suggested this guy is taking us down a very dangerous road?
I really have to say, at that time, you don't think, you just follow. and you try to make sure you follow very closely whatever that order is from the party, from Mao, because doing otherwise, just to show you have no enthusiasm, you will consider resistant. That's because as being under the communist rule for 17 years. And right now, we are in the earlier stage of conformity, that everyone now feel like woke. You can't disagree with it. If you disagree with the radical transgender ideology, you are transphobia. And if you disagree with BMM, you are racist. And now, if you disagree with the pro-Hamas movement, then you are a colonialist, or right. So you are forced. A lot of people disagree, but they are not to say anything. And so we are progressing in the same direction as the Cultural Revolution. Eventually, everyone would, if we don't stop it, everyone would just obey and conform, and then evil will run and rule the world because you no longer dare to say anything different.
What's the situation in Loudoun County now? You came to some prominence nationally by speaking up at school board meetings at Loudoun County when so many other parents were as well, about what was happening there with the curriculum and not to mention violence. And I wonder, and the revolt that happened in Loudoun and Fairfax counties put Glenn Youngkin in the governorship in Virginia. So we know that story. But I wonder if that was just a moment, just with that superintendent and that school board on those issues, or there's a newfound recognition about what is afoot, as you're describing it, in a well-heeled, educated place like Loudoun and Fairfax. Was it just a moment, or is there a real different thinking about what's happening that has taken hold there? Yeah,
this is a movement, but it takes a lot of a commitment and really committed and devoted people to keep the movement going, and that's not easy. It's not easy. The conservatives are just not like the radical liberals, because liberals are really right now they are communists. They never sleep. So as conservatives, we can't sleep either. So we have been working. Right now we have an election coming, and all the school board members are up for a re-election. We're working so hard try to get conservative board member in. And so it's early voting stage, the 7th, we're going to have the election day. So we have to really work hard on that. But I have something really good to report to you. On November 1st, there are student walkout in Loudoun High School and in another county next nearby. That's Prince William County. The students walk out in protest against the transgender policies, and they demand separate locker room for males and females. And I feel just so happy to see that kind of progress.
That is encouraging. She is Xi Van Fleet, Chinese by birth, American by choice, survivor of Mao's Cultural Revolution and defender of liberty. Her new book, pick it up, Mao's America, A Survivor's Warning. Xi Van Fleet, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors in Roselle. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows and doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we've been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows. From modern to traditional styles, Marvin replacement windows and doors can bring your garden right into your living space. Let us help make your world feel brighter and spacious. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you'll get a product expert, a design consultant who is solution-minded, and someone who has your best interest in mind. Our professional services, along with the best products like Marvin, are why we are proud of our 5-star reviews. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing, are why Woodland Windows is your trusted window and door experts in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation, or come and experience our state-of-the-art showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Our very own Saka Durbin, senior senator, calls for a ceasefire in Gaza. We'll start there with Fox News' Brett Baer at 7:07.
And what is it really like being a Jewish student at Cornell? But now let's head into the newsroom. Here is Mike Scott.
City Council meeting over Chicago's sanctuary city status spirals into chaos. WIND Chicago News Times 7.
Standing in solidarity with Israel. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We stand strongly for the proposition that Israel has not only the right but the obligation to defend itself.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken, on his third visit since Hamas's terror attack started a war in Gaza.
When it comes to the protection of civilians who are caught in a crossfire of Hamas's making, that everything be done to protect them and to bring assistance to those who so desperately need it.
Standing next to Israel's president, Isaac Herzog, who says they urged Palestinians to get out before troops went in with
6 million text messages and 4 million phone calls and 1.2 million pamphlets.
But officials in Gaza say more than 9,000 Palestinians have been killed, over a third of them kids, as Israeli forces keep battling Hamas militants, and Palestinians, they're out protesting in the West Bank.
The great concern is that there is so much anger now across the West Bank at what is happening in Gaza that these protests will be more violent than perhaps they have been in many years past.
Fox's Jonathan Hunt near an Israeli base on the edge of Ramallah. The House has approved $14 billion in military aid to Israel, though a dozen Democrats joined Democrats in support.
Senate Democrats say the bill is dead on arrival in that chamber, while the White House says President Biden would veto it. The president wants Congress to pass his $106 billion request for aid to Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, while also funding enforcement efforts at the U.S. southern border as one complete package.
Fox's Ryan Schmelz at the Capitol. The president will today go to Lewiston, Maine, the scene of last week's mass shooting that left 18 people dead. He'll meet with survivors, victims' families, and first responders. In New York, Eric Trump will continue testifying at the Trump Organization's civil trial. He and his brother, Donald Jr., have distanced themselves on the witness stand from the company's financial statements. Their father, the former president, calls the case rigged, denying his company committed fraud like the judge already ruled. America's listening to Fox News.
47 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Tensions running high over Chicago's status as a sanctuary city. At a special city council meeting yesterday, the matter spiraled into chaos. Alderman Anthony Beal and others want a non-binding referendum added to next spring's ballot that would decide Chicago's sanctuary city designation. City Council then struggled to meet a quorum to conduct business. At one point, the lights were turned off in the middle of the chaotic debate. No vote was taken.
I'm at loss for words. A lot of time being wasted.
Alderman Emma Mitz, Alderman Brendan Riley argued the decades-old ordinance didn't anticipate today's illegal migrant crisis and citizens deserved a vote. Now, the meeting ended up with shouts and accusations, and the mayor in Washington, D.C., asking for $5 billion more in federal funding. Meantime, the city of Chicago is leasing land on the southwest side where officials plan to build a migrant base camp. It's a $91,000 a month deal to lease land in the Brighton Park neighborhood, angering local residents like Patricia Tillman.
For years, we have wanted this facility, this lot for our children, for programs for our children, and we have been denied. Now you're going to tell me that you're going to take my tax money and give it to somebody else?
The mayor's office says it's an alternative approach to migrants sleeping outdoors at O'Hare or at a flood of police stations. A federal indictment has been filed against the Village of Riverdale Mayor Lawrence Jackson. He's charged with one count of perjury and one count of obstruction of justice. Feds have been keeping an eye on Jackson for years over a legal fight over garbage pickup in the south suburbs. Joliet police at the center of a civil rights lawsuit after a family accused them of wrongfully raiding their home. According to an attorney representing the family, the officers were investigating the shooting deaths of two 22-year-olds when they arrived on Adela Carrasco's front porch and shouted they had an arrest warrant.
I asked them to show me a warrant. They didn't show me nothing. They just pushed me aside and went in. And I'm screaming the whole time to put down the guns because I'm scared that they're going to shoot my grandkids.
The family then filed FOIA requests, but their attorney claims requests for information have been stonewalled by Joliet and Will County for nearly 2 years. A pair of Chicago baseball players named Comeback Players of the Year. White Sox Liam Hendricks in the American League, Cubs outfielder Cody Bellinger in the National. Bulls tip off that NBA in-season tournament with a game against Brooklyn tonight in new uniforms. Tomorrow it's the Fighting Illini and the Gophers in the Twin Cities, while Northwestern heads to the Diamond for the Wildcat Classic against Iowa at Wrigley Field. The news service of the daily podcast of Chicago's Morning Answer and the Sean Thompson Show. And a check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by Lil's Dietary Shop, Blue Star Security, and by Hope Wins 7.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Valparaiso is a growing community that has become a model city for the Midwest. Valparaiso has momentum, and Matt Murphy wants to make sure we keep moving forward.
Over the past 4 years, we have prioritized public safety by adding additional police officers, firefighters, and school resource officers, and decreased crime by 11%.
Now, Matt Murphy is running for Valparaiso City Council to keep our city on the right track.
We've invested in our infrastructure by paving more than 30 miles of roads. We engaged the next generation by creating the Mayor's Youth Council. We've increased our rainy day fund, improved government transparency by live streaming our meetings, and kept property taxes low.
As a conservative leader, Matt Murphy will work to keep Valpo a strong and thriving community.
We've done a lot, but the work isn't done. Valpo's on the right track, and we need your help to keep conservatives on the City Council. I'm Matt Murphy, and I'm asking for your vote on or before November 7th. Paid for by the committee to elect Matt Murphy.
All right, Christmas will be here before we know it. If you're looking for a really special gift, I encourage you to check out the firearms made right here in America by our great friends at Henry Repeating Arms. Now, you start by going to their website, henryusa.com, order their free holiday gift guide, and they'll mail it with free decals that you can use for stocking stuffers. Perfect timing. Folks, when you give someone a Henry, you're giving them a work of art that is built with the finest craftsmanship I've ever seen as a collector. Now, their performance is top-notch. Mine were accurate, all of them, right out of the box. They shoot smooth and straight, and they have been reliable ever since. They have over 200 models of rifles and shotguns and revolvers to choose from. One of the things I like the most about these firearms, they're family heirlooms. They'll always be backed by the company's lifetime warranty. So if you want to put something that's made in America under the tree this Christmas, henryusa.com. Get their free gift guide and their decals today. That's henryusa.com. You will love this company.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm Carolyn. I've been in private practice of physician's physical therapy for 35 years.
And you're going to come in, but breathe. Yep, perfect.
I open up at 4 a.m. and I'll go on till 10 a.m. and it's day after day. And as you can see by the equipment here, we are intensely active. People watch, they observe, and people say, Carolyn, what's your secret? And I say it's from proper diet, proper exercise, and of course, through Balance of Nature. I'm 60, but since taking Balance of Nature, I feel the energy level of 27. I've been taking Balance of Nature for several years, and I love it. I endorse it, I believe in it, and I would recommend it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
.709. Let's get an update on the roads in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. And right now we're seeing solid numbers on the Edens and climbing 27 from Lake Cook Road into the junction. Kennedy outbound, accident left lane block. Outbound between Montrose and Bryn Mawr. Ike outbound, accident left lane block between Central and Des Plaines Avenue. Travel time on the Dan Ryan, 25 minutes, 95th into the Burn Circle. You're jammed up inbound in the Express between 51st and the Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, mostly cloudy, rather breezy. Our high today, 58. Cloudy skies for tonight and tomorrow. Low tonight, 44. High tomorrow at 55. More clouds than sun on Sunday. High Sunday afternoon, 60. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
47 at O'Hare. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas, great coffee, period. Roasted fresh daily in Batavia, Illinois.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Boy, the left is really trying to be all things to all people when it comes to this conflict between the Israelis and Hamas. Really trying to be all things to all people. From Mr. 10%, the big guy, President Biden's national address the other week, where he was unequivocal in America standing with Israel, to now he calling for a pause. Our very own senior senator calling for a ceasefire.
Is a ceasefire needed now?
I think it is, at least in the context of both sides agreeing. For example, the release of those who have been kidnapped should be part of this, immediate release. That should be the beginning of it. An effort should be made to engage in conversation between the Israelis and the Palestinians. Let's face it, this has gone on for decades. Whatever the rationale from the beginning, it has now reached an intolerable level. We need to have a resolution in the Middle East that gives some promise for the future.
Have you told the president, the White House?
So ceasefire, the mealy-mouthed ceasefire rhetoric. John Kirby, NSC spokeshuman, on aid to Gaza as a requirement for support from the White House to any sort of aid package that would include Israel, Ukraine, Taiwan. Take a listen.
The way the House Republicans have carved this out is no humanitarian assistance. It only goes to security assistance for Israel. And that's got to be a non-starter. I mean, that's nothing more than partisan politics right there. I mean, here we are. I've been taking I don't know how many questions about civilian casualties and the desperation of the people in Gaza. I mean, it's incorrigible that anybody would think that we wouldn't need some additional funding to help get food, water, and medicine to these people. They didn't cause this. They didn't ask for that. Hamas doesn't represent them. They're victims too, and they need that support.
Well, I mean, Hamas literally does represent them since they're the governing body in Gaza. Literally,
they voted them in 2007, I believe. Yes.
I mean, so I'm all for humanitarian aid to innocents caught in the crossfire. But, I mean, how much have we provided in aid to Gaza over the last, I don't know, decade alone? And how are we assuring that the humanitarian aid would get to the Palestinian people and not just be commandeered by Hamas? And don't we have UN trucks ramping up their delivery of this aid? And don't we provide a great deal of funding to the UN generally and specific aid agencies like the World Programs beyond that? And do you really understand? You're the national security spokesman. Do you understand what Israel's doing? Because Mike McCall seems to, amid all of the propagandizing about bombing a refugee camp. Mike McCall understands what Israel's doing because he's watching. He's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Republican from Texas, and here's what he sees.
I think what's important to know, and I've talked to Cindy McCain, the World Food Program,
they're very good in combat situations, getting aid in. The trucks now have gone from like 14 to now 100 per day of bringing medicine and food in. But if you look at the battlefield right now in central Gaza, you can see what the IDF, the Israeli troops, are starting to do. They want to blockade northern Gaza from southern Gaza and then create a humanitarian zone, if you will, in southern Gaza, where I think this relief can be more readily deployed and to get the people out of there as well, particularly the dual citizens that are both have American citizenship and Palestinian. It would be great if Egypt would take some of them, or UAE or Saudi, but they won't, unfortunately. And so we're kind of dealt with the cards we have. But I think that's a strategy, is to isolate southern Gaza and turn it into a humanitarian zone away from Hamas in the north.
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m., best-selling author of the just-released To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment. Bret, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning.
So do you see the Biden administration, sort of watering down their position from where it was a week or 10 days ago, or am I being unfair?
No, I think that's what you're seeing. I think that the Israelis see that. I had Mark Regev on the show last night, and basically he thought, listen, we are not going to pause. This is going to push through. We're going to go after, these, and they called them monsters, who pulled off these October 7th attacks. And, they are trying desperately to miss and reduce civilian casualties. They know that that's a big part of this, and they're trying to figure out ways to get at these Hamas leadership targets without taking out civilians. The problem is Hamas uses civilians as human shields, and that is their MO. They're holding people in these places, and it's interesting to see how the administration kind of has changed from the beginning, which was one way, then to moral clarity and standing with the Israelis, then to, kind of calling for this pause. No one was calling for America to pause after we were going after al-Qaeda terrorists around the world after 9/11. Nobody was saying you need to dial it back when we were dropping bombs on leadership targets that did take out civilians. And that's where the Israelis' head is.
And one of the things we could be saying is, obviously everybody wants to limit civilian casualties as Israel does, and you heard Mike McCall, here's what the military is actually doing if you take a look at it and get beyond some of the rhetoric. The other thing we'd say, look, we can't take a pause or a ceasefire, and I don't really understand the difference between those two words, because the Israelis should be acting on intelligence they have in pursuit of a strategy they're affecting to take out Hamas as soon as possible. This is not to allow you can't allow them to take evasive action, to have the time to take evasive action if you want this to be resolved sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and the other thing is a ceasefire indicates two sides. Well, there aren't two sides. Right. Hamas officials are out publicly saying, no, our intifada, our war against Israel to destroy Israel will continue, no matter if they pause or not. And of all people, I can tell that you are aligned with Hillary Clinton on this. And I won't tell anybody, but that's what she said.
Well, right.
I mean, you're pushed back for that too.
You're talking about Ghazi Hamad, who is a Hamas spokeshuman. He was on Lebanese television. If we will repeat October 7th massacre time and again, 1 million times if we need to, until we end the occupation. The journalist asked him, occupation of Gaza, and he said, no, all of Israel. I mean, there's real clarity in that statement.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's in their charter. So there is no ceasefire coming from that way, is my point. And I think, listen, the Israelis think about civilian casualties a lot, and McCall rightly points out that the effort that they did with the dropping of the leaflets, trying to move the civilian population to the south, the problem is, again, Hamas uses civilians around its headquarters and prevents them from moving to safety.
And now, what do we know about? They said, during the initial attack on October 7th, that 30 Americans were killed, or 29 or 30, and that 10 are being held hostage still. Do we know about their backstories or who they are?
So we have confirmed 17 on October 7th, and we have their pictures and their bios, and we're trying to get into, finding some of those families, and some of them have talked out, some of them have spoken out. The number 10 is what the government is going on as far as unaccounted for, believed to be held hostage in Gaza.
On the politics of aid here, so of course the House Republicans moved the standalone Israeli aid. That's a non-starter for John Kirby, probably for a number of reasons, only one of which he gave. McCall said in that same interview yesterday that he sees all the threats linked together: Russia, Iran, Hamas, Chinese Communist Party, and so ultimately he sees essentially a comprehensive aid package moving through the House. But there's a real divide in the Republican caucus, it seems to me, and it's growing, between the McCall position and, say, the Speaker Johnson position.
I agree, and I think Speaker Johnson is winning. I think that that aid package to Israel that included pay-fors by pulling out the money from the IRS even got 12 Democratic votes. And so, you have a bipartisan piece of legislation that is going to be tough for Senate Democrats to vote against and say, we are not going to give this immediate aid to Israel. So from a political standpoint, I think, Johnson is kind of walking through the tulips here pretty well. He wants to tie Ukraine aid to border security to be able to get that through. And, I think that's an interesting way, a hat tip to the right of his caucus, but still pushing through these aid packages. And if the president vetoes the Israeli aid, that's just not going to be a good look on the world stage either.
Right. I wanted to get to the massacre in Maine and what we know, because, of course, the Democrats have been using this, as they normally do, to advance their call for gun bans, the sport weapon bans, banning some sport rifles and that. Kamala Harris going a little bit further and suggesting a mandatory gun buyback Australian style. But we now know this week that the U.S. Army did take action against the responsible person, that after he was taken to this hospital, this West Point hospital in New York for evaluation, the U.S. Army said he was non-deployable and shouldn't have access to weapons. And so now we go, it seems to me, to question, well, if that's what the U.S. Army concluded and state police in Maine were notified, why wasn't that yellow flag law pursued to its logical conclusion, which is to make sure that's part of his record in terms of any background check, and to pursue this individual with perhaps more alacrity than the domestic police did?
Yeah, it wasn't the original access. It was the follow-up that he was flagged already. And the fact that it didn't work shows sometimes these laws don't work. They fall through the cracks. So there is an issue, big issue there, and there's obviously a big issue with mental health. I think there's going to be a real battle still, and I don't see any movement about where we were politically about confiscating guns, or the fact that that there's this big push. I don't see an assault weapons ban on its way down the pike anytime soon.
Bret Baier, host of Fox News Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m., best-selling author of the just-released book, To Rescue the Constitution, George Washington and the Fragile American Experiment. Bret, thank you as always.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great weekend, and he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one. Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hey all, Jim Carr here. I am the owner of Carr Machine and Tool in Elk Grove Village and loyal customer of Signature Bank. As a second-generation owner, I knew I had to shift from operating as an old-school machine shop to what I can proudly say is now one of the fastest-growing aerospace manufacturing facilities in the region. Signature Bank was there every step of the way through our expansion efforts, including financing our new state-of-the-art facility. Their valuable industry expertise and constant communication throughout the construction process made our vision possible. Many thanks to Signature Bank for supporting Carr Machine and Tool. You set the bar high for other banks.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
All right, if you're a business owner or department head, are you planning for 2024? If you're like most businesses in Chicagoland, you've probably had a challenging year with sustaining revenue, hiring new recruits, and keeping operating costs at bay. Maybe you've had a great year, though, and want to build that momentum in the months to come. Whether your business faces obstacles like financial setbacks, fierce competition, IT nightmares, or unforeseen crisis, it's not about the challenges you face, it's how you overcome them and the people you partner with. With decades of C-suite experience from their consulting team to over 25 years of managed IT services, Turnkey knows small businesses. They know how to reduce your costs, grow new revenue streams, and more without having to hire on-site professionals. So set yourself and your business up for success. Let Turnkey show you how. Turnkey is Chicago's small business champion. Visit turnkey.pro to start a conversation today. That's turnkey.pro.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm Carolyn. I've been in private practice of physicians physical therapy for 35 years.
And you're going to come in, but breathe, breathe. Yep, perfect.
I open up at 4 a.m. and I'll go on till 10 a.m. and it's day after day. And as you can see by the equipment here, we are intensely active. People watch, they observe, and people say, Carolyn, what's your secret? And I say it's from proper diet, proper exercise, and of course, through Balance of Nature. I'm 60, but since taking Balance of Nature, I feel the energy level of 27. I've been taking Balance of Nature for several years, and I love it. I endorse it, I believe in it, and I would recommend it.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Building owners, property managers, and chief engineers. This one's for you.
Hello, this is Bruce Diedrich with Waukegan Roofing, your professional roofer. Everything starts on top. Your investment, your building, and everything in it is protected by your roof. It needs to be in good shape. That's where we can help. If it needs to be repaired or replaced, or you think it might, call us. Let's find out. Here's the number.
847-623-1625.
At Waukegan Roofing, our employees are union-trained roofing professionals with OSHA safety training certifications and have thorough knowledge and expertise regarding the various roofing systems we sell, maintain, and install. We know commercial roofing systems because that's all we do. Over 110 years of doing commercial roofs. Waukegan Roofing has the slogan,
Roofs you can rely on.
Because you can. Here's the number to call,
847-623-1625.
And get the info at waukeganroofing.com. waukeganroofing.com.
Have you been struggling to find an easy, safe, and secure document scanning solution for Salesforce.com, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, or OnBase by Highland? Your struggle is now over, and it's time to get your documents and operations into the 21st century. With IoT Smart Connected Scanning, it's easy to turn physical paper into digital documents and have them directly uploaded to the cloud with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. And you don't need a degree in computing or IT to make it happen. Using QR code technology uniquely configured for your specific business, anyone can set the IoT Smart Connected Scanning device up in 5 minutes or less, saving your organization money and valuable time. Remote employees can even capture documents and send them safely and seamlessly. Organize documents efficiently and securely with IoT Smart Connected Scanning from IDT. To see a demo or to order now, go to ready4idt.com. That's ready4idt.com. Use promo code SMART and receive 10% off your order. IDT, putting paper in its place.
Do you want your child to come back from school hating God, America, and you? If the answer is no, the solution is St. John's Lutheran School in Lombard. I am the man, Cal. Look, I'm a Christian guy with 2 daughters out in this world, and it can get very scary. St. John's Lutheran School Lombard is the only school in all of Illinois that offers the Hillsdale College curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. It's a game changer, a nurturing environment with a Christian faith, traditional values, and critical thinking that teaches kids to think for themselves, not what to think. What a great thing to do for your child or grandchild. Strong academics with the Hillsdale curriculum and strong character. Go to stjohnslombard.com. That's Saint, S-T, johnslombard.com. stjohnslombard.com. It's in Lombard, Glen Ellen, Wheaton, Downers Grove, and all places nearby. stjohnslombard.com.
Homeowners experiencing low water pressure, rusty yellow water, little to no hot water, or pressure so low that showering is difficult?
Honey, don't flush. I'm in the shower.
These are all symptoms of clogged and corroded galvanized water pipes that are filled with gunk older than you. You should see it. It's disgusting. You drink it, brush your teeth with it, and bathe in it. Yuck. For your family's sake, repipe your home with quality PEX or copper pipes from All Affordable Plumbing. We're your local family-owned and operated repiping expert. We can repipe your home in 1 to 3 days with minimal disturbance, and we include a lifetime guarantee. And for a limited time, we're offering 12-month no-interest, no-payment financing and a free water heater. So if you have low water pressure, call for a free in-home estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. That's 800-NEW-PIPE or visit allaffordable.org. If you have low water pressure, a copper repipe will get you flowing again. Call for a free estimate at 800-NEW-PIPE. That's 800-NEW-PIPE.
AM 560, The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
How are those states and cities trying to transform their economies into mob economies? How are they doing? We'll talk to Luke Neferatos, who's the Executive Vice President for Smart Approaches to Marijuana at 7:37.
And Dan, later, a Bobby Knight blooper you have got to hear. You're going to love it. But now let's head into that newsroom. Here is Mike Scott. Mike, where are you? You're not in the newsroom.
I'm in the newsroom.
Oh, you're in the other room.
I am. 7:30.
Your voice is deeper when you're in this room.
7:31 on AM 560, The Answer. We have 47 degrees outside. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has arrived in Israel to press for more humanitarian aid to be allowed into besieged Gaza. His visit comes while Israeli troops tighten their encirclement of Gaza City, the focus of Israel's campaign to crush Hamas terrorists and the ruling Hamas group.
Embassy Cairo has deployed a consular team to the Rafah crossing to support all these folks, make sure they get back to the embassy, and then we work with them on onward movement as appropriate.
National Security Council spokesman John Kirby telling reporters more Americans are evacuating war-torn Gaza, and he says more are coming in the coming days.
We still fully expect that more Americans will be able to depart, hopefully more today, but certainly we're looking for them to depart at a similar pace.
The House has approved a nearly $14.5 billion military aid package for Israel, but without humanitarian assistance for Gaza and elsewhere.
On this vote, the yeas are 226, the nays are 196. The bill is passed.
The bill will now head to the Senate for an early test for Speaker Mike Johnson. The House GOP bill was called deeply flawed by Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. The House on Thursday overwhelmingly approving a resolution condemning support for Hamas, Hezbollah, and other terror organizations on U.S. college campuses. We get more from our reporter Mark Mayfield.
The vote was 396 to 23. The resolution declares that support of Hamas and Hezbollah on campuses may lead to the creation of a hostile environment for Jewish students, faculty, and staff. The resolution is a rebuke of the uproar on some campuses following last month's deadly attack by Hamas on Israel and the Jewish state's military response. I'm Mark Mayfield.
A New York jury has convicted FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried of fraud charges. Bankman-Fried has been jailed since August. President Joe Biden heading to Lewiston, Maine after 18 were killed in the deadliest shooting in that state's history. Mayor Brandon Johnson's floor leader is accused of physically blocking a city council colleague from entering the chamber. In a social media post, Alderman Ray Lopez claimed Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa grabbed and physically blocked Alderwoman Emma Mitz from reaching the floor while a quorum call was going on inside the chamber. A special meeting was being held over the city's sanctuary status. Lopez called on Ramirez Rosa to resign this morning. Mayor Brandon Johnson continues his push as the federal government, he says, needs to be more involved in dealing with the migrant crisis. He asked for $5 billion yesterday and met with a delegation of senators, including Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth. Chicago sports. Saints will be seeking their second straight victory when they host the Bears Sunday afternoon. Bears defensive end Montez Sweat says he's still getting settled in with his new team.
Yeah, I'm just taking it one day at a time. Everything is happening kind of fast right now. Just waiting for it to slow down and we hit the ground running when we get there.
Rookie quarterback Tyson Bagent will once again start for the injured Justin Fields. Bears are locking down the middle of their defense. Team signing defensive tackle Andrew Billings to a 2-year extension. Bulls take on the Brooklyn Nets at the United Center tonight. Tomorrow, the Fighting Illini come off a bye to take on the Golden Gophers in the Twin Cities. The News is a service of Dan and Amy 24/7. You can now enjoy uninterrupted programming from Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson around the clock all day, every day. Listen now, danandamy247.com. A check of traffic and weather is on the way next on AM 560.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com.
This is good news, maybe exactly when you need it too. Right now, switching to MediShare can save you even more than usual, on top of what you'll save each month by becoming a member of MediShare. So many people are looking for a healthcare solution right now, especially given how inflation is affecting us. And MediShare is the affordable, reliable alternative to health insurance. The typical family saves about $500 a month. You might save even more. And MediShare is a Christian community that's been sharing each other's healthcare costs for 30 years now, and they're making it easier than ever. Apply by October 31st, and you can save an additional $150 on your first month. I'll give you the number here in a second, but just tell them the promo code SHARE to get your additional savings. Maybe now is the time to make the switch, like more than 400,000 people already have, and start saving. Here it is. It's 844-47-BIBLE. That's 844-47-BIBLE. 844-47-BIBLE.
Exergen thermometers are a top choice of medical professionals at highly ranked hospitals across the U.S. Accuracy matters, so make Exergen the chosen thermometer for your home and family.
7:38 on AM 560. The Answer. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Edens, Lake Cook Road to the junction in 37 minutes. The Kennedy right now at an hour 20 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Dan Ryan in a full half hour, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. On the Tri-State, an accident, left lane blocked northbound between Plainfield Road and Roosevelt. Jane Addams, an accident, 2 left lanes blocked. Eastbound I-90 at Higgins, you're backed up to to Mannheim. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. Now your official Chicagoland weather forecast. Mostly cloudy, scattered sprinkles or light showers by the late afternoon. Highs in the upper 50s tonight. Cloudy, scattered light showers. Lows in the mid-40s. Currently 47 at O'Hare, 44 at Midway, 42 in Aurora. Your next news update is at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I remember way back before COVID, in the zeitgeist of marijuana legalization all over the country, including Illinois, that there was some people expressing concerns about legalization and what it would mean. But, of course, in many of the states that are most aggressive in pursuing legalization, you have basically leftists who want to take over all of the mob's rackets, and drugs is certainly part of that. You know, we see this in Chicago. It's with gambling and drugs. We're just waiting for
prostitution to be legalized, right? 'Cause
Exactly.
that could be a revenue stream.
There's no question. And there have been proposals in New York to do that from members of the city council there in New York City. Also in L.A., there's stories out. You basically have de facto legalization. You have open-air sex markets in L.A., so that's probably coming, because there's so much money in it. There were some concerns raised. In fact, Alex Berenson, who most people know through COVID, before he was on the COVID beat, he was on the marijuana beat because of the experiences of his wife, who is a medical health professional, with the incidence of psychosis, particularly among young people who are heavy marijuana users. But that's all by the boards. It's sort of like worrying about young kids and their screen time. Don't worry about that. Not during COVID and not since.
What about like legalizing psychedelics, mushrooms? I mean,
Well,
just look at that pilot, off-duty pilot who was on that plane who said he ate shrooms 48 hours before and he tried to bring down the plane.
Well, Colorado's moved in that direction, but California, this is the point I'm getting to. California, Patrick Bateman there, the governor of California, vetoed legislation that was passed by the California General Assembly with supermajorities in both chambers. It would have legalized psychedelics and authorized Amsterdam-style cannabis cafes. So what's the problem? There's not necessarily a problem, said Newsom, quoting him here. Psychedelics have proven to relieve people suffering from certain conditions such as depression, PTSD, addictive personality traits. It's an exciting frontier, and California will be on the front end of leading it. But we have to set up regulated treatment guidelines with dosing information, therapeutic guidelines, and so forth. The bill that made it to his desk would decriminalize possession prior to these guidelines going into place, which is why he said he couldn't sign it. Of course, it's safe drug use in the ever-expanding category of drugs that the libertarians and mob economists of the world want to advance. So how is it going with marijuana? I think marijuana legalization is now in more states than school choice. That's sort of just an interesting cultural comment, isn't it? I think so. That's why I made it. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined by Luke Neforitos.
You want me to take this one, Dan? I can do it.
I just said it for the break. I don't know why. Sometimes my synapses misfire. Luke Neforitos is the executive vice president for Smart Approaches to Marijuana. He joins us now. Luke, sorry for butchering your name. Thanks for joining us.
Man, no problem, Amy. Thank you all for having me back on after several years. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
And my last name is a Greek last name, straight out of Chicago, where I was born. So
there you
definitely,
go.
you did a good job. You nailed it on the second time around.
I should. I'm gonna get chastised by John Cass for that mispronunciation. All right, so Luke, what is the state of play with marijuana legalization, and what's your read on why California would pump the brakes on cannabis cafes and legalization of psychedelics?
Yeah, well, so it's been 9 years since Colorado became the first state to legalize recreational marijuana. We have about 22 states, so less than half the American states have chosen to legalize recreational. And we have about 30 states with kind of, different kinds of laws, some smaller, some larger, on quote-unquote medical marijuana. And what we're seeing right now, and I just wrote a piece on this in this latest issue of The Spectator about this. So for those who subscribe to that, they can read a long-form piece on what's going on. But really what we're seeing is the black market is dominating the supposedly quote-unquote legal market in legal states. So, a state like California, 80% of all the marijuana sold and consumed in California is still done on the black market. And this is, nearly a decade after they legalized it. Colorado, black market dominates. We have 3 new foreign cartels that are illegally growing and selling marijuana in Colorado, and it continues elsewhere. Oregon, 70% is done on the black market. So the promise of getting rid of the drug dealers, the promise of getting rid of the cartels has gone up in smoke. That the legal market just can't compete from a tax standpoint, as well as just from an ease of consumption standpoint. It's just easier to buy marijuana from your friends or from the dealer on the street than it is from the legal market. So I anticipate that will continue. You mentioned the psychosis and kind of health-related issues. Those continue to spiral in legal states. We've seen an almost 2,000% increase across the country in kids being exposed to marijuana edibles. So they're 2-year-olds consuming marijuana gummy bears, going to the hospital, et cetera. We're also seeing new kinds of illnesses coming. So cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, it's uncontrollable vomiting. We're getting upwards of 100 Americans now who have died from this. What happens is, for someone who's heavily using marijuana, they get this syndrome where they just can't stop vomiting, and some call it scromiting, screaming and vomiting at the same time. And people are dying from that and really suffering from that, hitting the ERs. So those are some of the new things we're seeing, some of the outcomes we're seeing. And this was predicted. The American Medical Association, every medical association was against legalization of marijuana, continues to be against it for these reasons of what we're talking about. And this was something that Illinois was warned very sternly about back in 2019 when they slammed this through.
Wow, what the scromiting thing? So where are these people? You said there 100 Americans have died from it?
Yes, it's a brand new. We really hadn't seen this illness before. They still haven't even given it a diagnosis code yet. They're in the process of doing that because for those of you who are listening, do you know any ED physicians, any emergency room docs? Ask them about cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. I promise you, they will tell you they're seeing it every single night in the ERs now. Certainly happening in Colorado as well. What essentially is happening is people are coming in, they're vomiting, they can't stop. And for a while, people had no idea what the source was, and they realized that every single person who was coming in was a very heavy marijuana user. And so we're realizing that this is cannabis hyperemesis. It's a new phenomenon that is just happening all across the country now as people are using at a heavier rate than ever before.
And one of the points that Berenson made in his book several years back was you have to understand a couple of things about what's being legalized. This is not your parents' or grandparents' Woodstock marijuana. The THC content is much stronger and thus, much more dangerous.
That's correct. Yeah. So I think, everyone thought, certainly in Colorado where I live now, when we voted on this, people thought we were voting on, the joints and kind of, just make it so my neighbor who smokes a joint, every other night, doesn't go to jail for it. And that's just not what this was about. This was about commercializing, creating a massive new industry around marijuana that has taken the marijuana plant, which in a, quote unquote state of nature was around 1 to 3% THC. That's the ingredient that gets you high. Now we're talking about products that are 99% potency in the form of dabs. For those of you who haven't heard of dabbing, Look it up. That is the new insanely high potency way to consume marijuana. And it's just having a whole different effect on your brain. Berenson gets at this, and also it's in the scientific literature, that people who use today's high-potency marijuana on a regular basis are 5 times more likely to develop schizophrenia, psychosis, other forms of mental illness. And we're seeing multiple new large population-level studies verifying that this is happening. And what we've done is we've shotgunned these brand-new products on the population, not knowing the risks, and basically experimenting on our public. And particularly in Illinois, there was this push during COVID of, listen to the scientists. And all the scientists, medical professionals, the head of the Illinois Medical Society, for example, testified in Illinois, urging them to slow down, don't do this. The science has a lot of warnings out there about this. And it was slammed through anyway. And you can't help but wonder, you have Governor J.B. Pritzker, the Pritzker family, they're heavily invested into Juul, which is in the marijuana game. They're heavily invested in the marijuana industry. And also, Joby Pritzker is on the, or was on the board of the nation's top pro-marijuana organization. So you just can't help but wonder if there were some other things involved in that rush to legalize other than listening to the scientists.
Yeah, sometimes I experience scromiting when I think about the Pritzker family. But it goes away. This is just an anecdote, but it speaks to what you're talking about. I have a friend whose son in his mid-20s during COVID, as a lot of kids did, unfortunately, that were locked in and locked down, started using marijuana very heavily, and he had a psychotic break. He had run-ins with the law. He tore apart his apartment. Just destroyed it for no particular reason. He got very close, if it wasn't for his dad's intervention, into serving jail time for some of his run-ins with the law. And he was AWOL. He was doing a lot of crazy things. I don't need to go into the details. And it was really touch and go to pull him back, institutionalization, and it took a good year and a half to sort of bring him back to 80 to 90% of normalcy, where he could hold a job and be productive and be peaceful. And I'm sure other people have stories like this within their orbits. This is not 700 Club type of finger wagging about people who use marijuana. It's a discussion of what the pitfalls are that really got short shrifted and continues to.
Absolutely, yeah. This is something that, whether you're right, left, in the center, if you value just reality and the facts, that's what this is about. The facts are, we're promised that this is a safe, regulated market where kids aren't getting into it. That's just completely false. It hasn't played out in any of the states that have legalized it. We're just looking at the data coming out of these states. And what we're seeing is black markets thriving, drug dealers are doing better than ever. Our kids are getting into marijuana because it's more accessible than it's ever been. And I think that's the key thing to think about. You all were talking about some of the other legalization efforts out there, prostitution, psychedelics, and other such things. The reason why we don't legalize, these behaviors and substances that we know are harmful to society is not because, there's the comparison of marijuana and alcohol. And some people say, alcohol is worse than marijuana could be, and it's legal. And the reason why we don't want to follow suit with marijuana is not because it's going so great with alcohol. We have 100,000 Americans every year that die from alcohol-related deaths. And that's not because, and by the way, that's, alcohol has been killing more Americans every year than fentanyl's been for the last several years, until just this year, fentanyl surpassed alcohol. I don't think anyone thinks alcohol is more harmful than fentanyl. What the difference is that alcohol is legally available for commercial sale and access. And so you have a large number of the population using it, and we see the magnitude of the harms of that substance at a population level. When we have drugs made illegal for common use, they're not as accessible. We don't see the harms happen at a population level. We don't see them magnified in that way and expanded by an industry that is trying to sell them to more people and get more people to use them more. So the point being, With legal marijuana, it's more accessible than ever. It's more advertised than ever because it's legal, and we see the harms in more people at a greater scale. And so I think that's the point that needs to be made here. Is it's not that it's worse or better than any other substance. It's when it's legal, then the industry is making it worse. It's making it more addictive. 1 in 3 people who use marijuana in the last year now, this new high-potency marijuana, they're developing an addiction. So this commercial model, it exacerbates the harms and the access for kids as well as the general public.
Yeah, the whole argument, it's not as harmful as alcohol and alcohol is legal, is so tired to me. Anthony Esselin has a good response to that, which I've adopted as my own, the academic and theologian. He said, so just because we can't prohibit everything doesn't mean we shouldn't prohibit anything. You have to live in the real world and and what you can generate popular support for and so forth. I mean, we can't eliminate risk, and we can't eliminate people engaged in risky behavior, and in terms of including in terms of consumption. But I mean, for those who want to make that argument about legalization, alcohol versus marijuana, as you just made, well, alcohol is the proximate cause of death for more people than fentanyl. So by that logic, we should legalize fentanyl too. And you'll have some libertarians say that, but I don't think that's where the popular opinion is. And so, that little fortune cookie, it's not as dangerous as alcohol argument really doesn't hold up in the real world.
That's right. That's right. And I think with psychedelics, it was interesting to see California Governor Gavin Newsom, as you all alluded, veto that bill. And we can obviously, I think we all know there's political motivations and broader aspirations that he has, and it's probably insulating him from, in terms of appearing like a more moderate candidate later, and maybe that's what went into his decision. But what's interesting is what he noted, and you rightly quoted what he noted there, which is that there's no clinical guidelines. There's no dosing for these substances. And by the way, you all have quote unquote medical marijuana in Illinois. There's no dosage or guidelines for that either. I mean, you don't have doctors saying, take 2 puffs of your quote unquote medical marijuana joint, for your medicine. Same situation with psychedelics. And so it's just an acknowledgement of the fact that we are at a place where industry profiteers and entrepreneurs who want to deal drugs under a legal guideline in this country are doing whatever they can. They're selling it are trying to sell it as medicine, even though there's no dosage, there's no guidelines, there's no medical validation of these substances to be used by patients, and that's what's happening.
And during COVID, if you had medical marijuana and there was a line, you got to the front of the line. It was so goofy.
Well, it's not.
You can't be on TSA pre-check too if you're on medical marijuana if you're signed up for that.
Well, this whole medical marijuana, it's an oxymoron, and it's just a backdoor to full legalization, of course, as you know. But as I can't remember which med school academic made this point. It's not medicine. Stop saying it's not medicine. It's a toxin. So let's just call things what they are, and then have a discussion about some toxins that should be legal or not legal, and the environment which they should be legal. But stop calling it medicine. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's part of the game plan. So you have one of the leaders of the marijuana legalization movement back in the late 70s said, we've failed at selling this substance, and something needs to be legalized. So we're going to call it medical marijuana, and that will be our game plan to get it legalized. And it worked. And what's hilarious is we have no dosage, no prescription. When you take this substance as a medication, you have no idea how it contraindicates with other medications that you're taking. We're now learning that I don't know if you all saw the research that came out a couple months ago, that if you go in for surgery, they are telling surgery centers and surgeons you have to ask people if they're using marijuana, because marijuana users require 10 times the anesthetic in surgeries that non-marijuana users require. There's also a number of now complications they're finding in surgeries, certain kinds of surgeries for marijuana users that put them more at risk. So it's a very at-risk behavior now as you're going in for some of these elective surgeries. And that's just one of the many things. And what I'll tell you is there's a reason why we have the FDA in this country. There's a reason why we have a process for medicine in this country. It's that when you get a medicine that is to be prescribed, by the time it's approved for prescriptions, you know what other substances it interacts with, and doctors understand what they need to do with that substance if you are receiving it as a medication and you're going to receive some sort of procedure. They don't have any of that with marijuana. And if they do the same thing with psychedelics, which Colorado last year legalized, quote-unquote, medical psychedelics, wonder where they got that idea from, then you're going to find yourself in that exact same situation.
He is Luke Neferatos. He's the Executive Vice President for Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Luke, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Amy, and God bless you all.
Thank you. Very informative. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. You're smart, you're busy, and don't have time to waste on the mainstream media cycle. Salem News Channel breaks that cycle. Topics that matter from hosts worth watching. Dinesh D'Souza, Andrew Wilkow, Brandon Tatum, and more. Open debate and free speech you won't find anywhere else. Salem News Channel. Not like the other guys. Watch anytime on any screen. Free 24/7. Find everything you need to know at snc.tv. That's snc.tv. AM 560. The Answer.
All right, coming up on Chicago's Morning Answer.
The October jobs numbers out, pretty anemic. Unemployment ticked up. Hooray? ? We'll ask Jim Perry at 8:08.
And then at 8:38, it's Open Mic Friday. Cloudy today, warmer, a high of 58 degrees. It's 8 a.m., WIND Chicago.
Less hiring, more unemployment. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's in a report just out this morning.
There were 150,000 new jobs created last month, fewer than expected. The unemployment rate rose from 3.8 to 3.9%. Also, job creation for August and September has been revised lower by 101,000.
Fox's Janika Sola. That report could lift stocks futures higher before the opening bell. Secretary of State Antony Blinken visiting Israel for a third time since Hamas's terror attack started a war.
How Israel does this matters, and it is very important that when it comes to the protection of civilians who are caught in the crossfire of Hamas's making, that everything be done to protect them.
Blinken's visit comes as fighting rages on inside the Gaza Strip behind me. We've heard small arms fired today. The Israelis are updating their death toll to 24 soldiers since they launched the ground portion of this war. 28 days in, factions inside Gaza still maintain their abilities to fire rockets. There have been sirens sounding in southern Israel today.
That's Fox's Trey Yanks near the border. Officials in Gaza say more than 9,000 Palestinians have been killed. House Republicans have approved $14 billion in military aid just for Israel. GOP Congressman Mike Gallagher just told Fox.
I think we need a separate track of negotiations for things like Ukraine in return for meaningful border policy changes.
But the House bill may go nowhere in the Senate because they want to bundle Israel and Ukraine aid together. At the civil trial in New York, former President Trump calls rigged, denying his company committed fraud like the judge ruled.
Eric Trump, who now runs the Trump Organization, is due back on the witness stand today. New York Attorney General Letitia James is suing the Trumps and the Trump Organization, accusing them of inflating the former president's net worth in order to get favorable deals on insurance and loans.
Fox's Tanya J. Powers. So far, Eric and Donald Trump Jr. have distanced themselves in testimony from financial statements. America's listening to Fox News.
Skies are cloudy. 47 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Mayor Brandon Johnson's floor leader is accused of physically blocking a city council colleague from entering the chamber. Alderman Raymond Lopez claimed Alderman Carlos Ramirez Rosa grabbed and physically blocked Alderwoman Emma Mitz from reaching the floor while a quorum call was going on in the chamber. Lopez is calling on Ramirez Rosa to resign. Mayor Brandon Johnson continues to push the federal government for more help with dealing with the migrant crisis. Johnson and other big city mayors were in Washington, D.C. yesterday, asking for more than $5 billion in federal funding. Johnson also spent time with the Illinois House delegation and met with a group of senators, including Dick Durbin and Tammy Duckworth. The daughter of disgraced former Chicago Alderman Danny Solis is stepping down from her job with the Chicago Park District. Sun-Times reporting that Maya Solis resigned as South Region Director in the midst of an investigation that accuses her of violating the agency's sexual harassment policy. Now, you may know Maya Solis' father has been charged with bribery and has been cooperating with federal prosecutors reportedly has been wearing a wire while speaking with former Alderman Ed Burke and longtime Illinois House Democrat Speaker Michael Madigan. If motorists plan to get gas in Hammond, Indiana, they should get to the pump before overnight hours. Mayor Thomas McDermott says a new law requires gas stations to close between midnight and 5 a.m. to reduce overnight crime. He adds that 3 warning tickets have been issued to gas station owners who were unaware that the law had taken effect. Chicago sports. Saints will be seeking their second straight victory when they host the Bears Sunday afternoon at the Superdome. Meantime, the Bears are locking down the middle of their defense, team signing defensive tackle Andrew Billings to a 2-year extension. The Bulls tip off the NBA in-season tournament with a game against the Brooklyn Nets at the United Center later on tonight. The news is a service of In Grace with Jim Scudder Jr., now heard Sunday morning at 6:30 on AM 560, The Answer. It's 8:04, time for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Burger King's parent company, Restaurant Brands, is reporting weaker than expected sales growth for the summer quarter, up about 6%, though its earnings top forecasts. Apple's holiday forecast is dragging down the stock. It's predicting demand for iPhones, iPads, and wearable devices will come in about the same as a year ago. The holiday quarter is typically when Apple has its biggest sales of new iPhone models. The United Auto Workers Union is stepping up its effort to organize Toyota and other non-union U.S. auto factories. UAW President Shawn Fain says Toyota is now offering pay and benefit increases because he says the company knows we're coming for them. Wall Street will be reacting today to the October employment report. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
Freedom Summit Chicago tickets are now on sale. Join AM 560, The Answer, on November 11th at the Westin Chicago Northwest for Freedom Summit, featuring Rand Paul, Judge Janine Pirro from Fox News, Dan Proft, Amy Jacobson, Sean Thompson, and many more. Tickets are on sale now at freedomsummitchicago.com. That's freedomsummitchicago.com. Sponsored in part by St. John's Lutheran School in Lombard, Tom Miraboli, independent insurance agent with Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois, and by overheaddoorchicago.com.
All right, Christmas will be here before we know it. If you're looking for a really special gift, I encourage you to check out the firearms made right here in America by our great friends at Henry Repeating Arms. Now, you start by going to their website, henryusa.com, order their free holiday gift guide, and they'll mail it with free decals that you can use for stocking stuffers. Perfect timing. Folks, when you give someone a Henry, you're giving them a work of art that is built with the finest craftsmanship I've ever seen as a collector. Now, their performance is top-notch. Mine were accurate, all of them, right out of the box. They shoot smooth and straight, and they have been reliable ever since. They have over 200 models of rifles and shotguns and revolvers to choose from. One of the things I like the most about these firearms, they're family heirlooms. They'll always be backed by the company's lifetime warranty. So if you want to put something that's made in America under the tree this Christmas, henryusa.com. Get their free gift guide and their decals today. That's henryusa.com. You will love this company.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule. Changing the world, one life at a time.
My name is Ruthie. I love helping people. There's so many people that are down. Sometimes all it takes is a piece of pie to make the sunshine come in their life again. And with the help of Balance of Nature, it's making it more fun and giving me more energy. And I would really like to thank Balance of Nature. These are mine for life.
Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com to get 35% off your first preferred order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. That's 1-800-246-8751. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
It is 8:08. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. But first, your official look at traffic. And in the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, we see right now on the Edens 30 minutes Lake Cook Road into the junction, the Kennedy at an hour 20 from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. Stop and go traffic on the Stevenson as you approach the Dan Ryan. You're backed up to Damon and 63 minutes from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Tri-State accident right lane block northbound 294 between Plainfield and Roosevelt, and an accident eastbound between Toohey and the Tri-State on the Jane Addams I-90 eastbound. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. Your official Chicagoland weather forecast with Steve Williams.
Today, mostly cloudy, rather breezy. Our high today, 58. Cloudy skies for tonight and tomorrow. Low tonight, 44. High tomorrow at 55. More clouds than sun on Sunday. High Sunday afternoon, 60. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
47 at O'Hare, 44 Midway, and 42 this morning in Aurora. Your next news update at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. October jobs number, 150,000. Unemployment rate ticked up to 3.9%. Not that I place much value in those statistics, particularly because they're almost forever revised significantly after the month after they're announced. Anyway, that's good news, right? We want fewer jobs created. We need more people out of work. That's the position of Fed Chairman Jay Powell, I thought, to bring down inflation. Bring down the pressure on wage increases and associated price increases. So, good news. Stay the course, 1,000 points of light, right? For more on that, James Perry joins us, founder, CIO of Perry International Capital Partners. James, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning.
So, everything's going according to plan.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, 150,000 jobs, 180 expected. And again, like you said, the statistics are a little bit goofy. I think the number probably would have been 198 or 200 without the strikes. And that's sort of, 48,000 people or something. So we are coming down on the job growth. I think the last 12 months, job gains have been sort of 266,000 a month. So 150 is a lot lower than that. And if you go back 2 years, when the stimulus was all here, we were getting sort of 379 new jobs a month over the last 24 months. So the economy's slowing. The Atlanta GDP number, the GDP number for Q3 came in at 4.9, and Atlanta Fed expectations for Q4 are down to sort of 1.2% now, something like that. So desired effect. Higher rates have slowed the economy, no doubt.
Well, with his abysmal numbers, I mean, Biden's, he's going throughout the Midwest campaigning on Bidenomics, touting it as a success.
Yeah, that's kind of a problem. I mean, the economy is definitely right. Listening to Powell a few days ago, he seemed gratified that the economy hasn't collapsed more. And as Judy Shelton said this morning, he's really more bewildered because, the reason we haven't slowed down more is all this fiscal deficit spending. And if the government hasn't been spending so much money, the economy would be in a recession already. And the fact is that at some point, you see it today, the dollar's going down hard. And the reason for it is that the government can't afford to spend this money. And if they weren't doing it, it'd be a lot worse off.
Wait, they can't. They can't. But this is the paradox. They can't afford to be spending all this money. We can't afford to be spending all this money, printing and spending all this money, but we can't afford not to.
Yeah, I mean it's unhealthy at best. I think that what has really changed things. Everybody in the country knows that prices are really high, right? Everybody knows it. Every household, every small business, and the cost of money's high too. So the economy's not doing that great. I think the surprise has been how strong consumer spending has been really through the summer. It's starting to slow down now, but consumers were leading the economy, and I think Powell didn't even bring up the two things that he was supposed to bring up. He did not answer the questions about the two issues that are really worrying in investors the most: inflation and budget deficits. Not a word. Didn't talk about it. So that's the whole story in a nutshell.
So half of S&P companies have reported earnings, and I read from your newsletter the average about profitability about 2.7%. So, I mean, I know the story is that business investment is way down, but profitability isn't. And so we're going to continue to click along, maybe not at 4.9% GDP growth on a quarterly basis, but we're going to continue to click along. So again, stay the course.
Yeah. I mean, I was looking last night at the earnings from Apple, right? And if you think about Apple, which is, biggest company in the world, most valuable company in the world, top line revenues are down again for sort of, I think this is the fourth quarter in a row the top line revenues are down for Apple for all kinds of reasons, manufacturing in China and expensive toys. But the fact is net income is up. And if you look at the S&P companies that have been reporting, they all have one thing in common. Revenues are fairly reasonable, but profitability is still running at, 7%, 8%, 10%, 12% profitability, net income increases. And that is really about inflation, right? I mean, you look at these consumer products companies, the goods we buy in the grocery stores, the packaging is smaller, and the prices are going up, and people are still, to this date, up through the summer anyway, through the last quarter, are still not being dissuaded to spend because of higher prices. And what we see now, I think, really, is that that's changing pretty quickly. People are just going to sort of start boycotting spending, and I think that consumer spending is going to come down.
Well, we got the holidays right around the corner. It's going to be hard.
I know. It's the holiday quarter, as they call it, and retailers, routinely make 50% of their net profits in the next 2 months, for the year. So maybe they go into more debt. We got this credit card issue that's rising every day. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. I mean, I think the biggest problem is we're going to slow down and we're going to keep inflating. And that's the same story we've had, which we've been talking about on this program for, 24 months. That's a stagflation economy. And if the president wants to brag about that, people aren't going to buy it, right? So.
Well, Amy, if you don't want to buy me a Christmas present this year, I'll understand. Don't worry about that.
Thanks. I'll give you an experience. You get to see me. We can spend some time together.
But the equities markets are still, there's a little bit of a hiccup, almost moving the NASDAQ into correction territory last week, but we're rebounding. Equities markets are performing positively. So, I know you put this distribution of where your money is in your newsletter. Can you tell our listeners what percentage of your portfolio is in equities?
Yeah, it's less than 10%. Wow. Well, I'm getting 5.5% on sort of 85% of the portfolio, and that's okay for now because, the S&P, even with this last couple of days of rally here, it's still down 6% on the year, right? I mean, and it doesn't, let's put it this way. The stock market is very, very happy since Wednesday for two reasons. Number one, the Treasury made the decision or came to the realization that they can't continue to bring supply in the longer end of the Treasury curve because people aren't going to buy it. And that's deficit spending. So you are beginning to see the government have to react to the bond vigilantes out there. So more and more of this issuance is coming in the short end of the curve. And the stock market thinks that the Fed is done, right? I mean, this is the whole deal. Has the Fed finished tightening? And just about everybody on Wall Street will say yes. Now the question is, what do you do from here? And what you do from here is you probably keep inflating. So I think at some point here, you're going to either see rates go back up again. I would not be buying bonds here, to be honest with you. You got a negative real yield. If you want to buy a bond right now, you're going to lock in a negative real yield, right? That's not a good investment. So bonds are here, but they haven't really gone very much further than they've been for the last sort of 3 months or 6 months, which is higher. But, again, Powell is not worried, or let me put it this way. Powell is thrilled that his rate increases over since March of 22 have not slammed the economy into a recession. He's ecstatic that has happened.
And
Has he solved any problems? No.
And the impact of geopolitics, war I'm talking about, the impact so far has been negligible?
The oil prices are lower today than when October 8th hostilities started. And I think that surprised a lot of people. The dollar is drifting downward and rates are lower, and there is a certain element of flight to quality with respect to the bond market. There's no question about that. The world's a dangerous place. But I think that there are global investors who are reluctant to buy treasuries here because they are worried that this country's deficit situation can only get worse without the government taking some actions to change their behavior. So something's got to give eventually. And for now, we can sit here and just wait for everything to be sort of neutral and hope that the stock market doesn't go down and that the economy doesn't slow down too much further. So slow-moving train, I think.
Jim Perry is the founder and CIO of Perry International Capital Partners. James, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, Dan and Amy.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
If your money is not earning at least 6% tax deferred, you need to call Professional Life and Casualty. They're offering a 6% APY on new funds deposited into your annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA accounts. Rate subject to change. Please call to confirm. With Professional Life and Casualty, you pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Professional Life and Casualty has been providing insurance and annuity products for over 60 years. Visit plcinsurance.com. plcinsurance.com. They'll send you a free guide to tax-deferred, no-fee annuity. Earn 6% APY on annuity, traditional IRA, or Roth IRA. Pay no surrender charges, no administrative fees, and no withdrawal fees. Only from Professional Life and Casualty. Call 1-800-651-1800. That's 1-800-651-1800.
By the Hand Club for Kids exists to help children who live in under-resourced neighborhoods have abundant life. God is transforming our city through By the Hand. I know this for a fact because I am a student at By the Hand, and my life has been drastically changed as a result. Learn more at salem.bythehand.org. That's salem.bythehand.org.
The following is a paid political announcement.
Valparaiso is a growing community that has become a model city for the Midwest. Valparaiso has momentum, and Matt Murphy wants to make sure we keep moving forward.
Over the past 4 years, we have prioritized public safety by adding additional police officers, firefighters, and school resource officers, and decreased crime by 11%.
Now, Matt Murphy is running for Valparaiso City Council to keep our city on the right track.
We've invested in our infrastructure by paving more than 30 miles of roads. We engaged the next generation by creating the Mayor's Youth Council. We've increased our rainy day fund, improved government transparency by live streaming our meetings, and kept property taxes low.
As a conservative leader, Matt Murphy will work to keep Valpo a strong and thriving community.
We've done a lot, but the work isn't done. Valpo's on the right track, and we need your help to keep conservatives on the City Council. I'm Matt Murphy, and I'm asking for your vote on or before November 7th. Paid for by the committee to elect Matt Murphy.
An informed and educated citizenry is the only guarantee to preserve our constitutional republic. And each week, you'll hear from experts, not pundits, and find out what's really happening, from local issues to national politics. Listen to The Real Story with Jeannie Ives. There's no topic of public policy concern that she won't talk about. Stop the lies. Learn the truth. Join the conversation. Sunday night at 7, right here on AM 560. The Answer.
Why should the Federal Reserve have so much power over your IRA or 401k? Whether they create a new bubble with low interest rates or pump the last bubble with high interest rates, a group of unelected government officials has no business deciding your future. Hi, I'm Dr. Ron Paul, and this is just one more reason why I recommend a physical gold IRA from Birch Gold Group. Because precious metals are the best way to maintain your financial independence. And now you can hold gold inside of a tax-advantaged account. To learn more, text the word HEDGE to 989898. And my friends at Birch Gold will send you a free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold is the only gold IRA company I trust, so text HEDGE to 989898 to request your free info kit right now.
AM 560. The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call in now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. That means it's that time of the week. 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. Taking your calls with comments, compliments, concerns, criticisms, general correct pottery. We'll take it all. Open Mic Friday is presented by turnkey.pro, your small business partner. Visit them online at turnkey.pro, and we're pleased to kick off Open Mic Friday, as we do, with David Kolsak, the founder of turnkey.pro. And do we have another installment of Kolsak's questions today, David?
Oh, I love it.
Well, you might have. I just got to tell you, I'm a little hoarse today because I was at the Pitbull concert last night. Talk about a circus. It was fun. I mean, Pitbull was great. The dancers certainly were amazing. And Enrique Iglesias looked like he was lip-syncing, and Ricky Martin was still awesome. But super hypersexualized show.
Ricky Martin's, wow. What kind of seats did you have?
You can run, you can hide, but you can't escape my love. Did you sing along to that Enrique Iglesias song?
Talk to me. Tell me your name. Yeah, I mean, it's such a good, it's a good show. I mean, it brings you back to kind of times of old, and it was a little more innocent back then. But anyway,
did they ask you to sit in with? Did they ask you to sit in with the band?
Hell no, man. I don't think there was a band. It seemed like they were playing the track, but I mean, it was cool. They had drummers, and they pantomimed the show, but it was really cool. Well done. Right. And, I don't know if it was worth the big money, but it was fun. It was really fun. But I paid $46 for two Modelos, right? And going back to your conversation.
You're kidding me.
Earlier you were talking about marijuana, and you're like, what's the appeal of marijuana and all this? But I'm going to go with it's a lot cheaper than drink. I mean, are the alcohol companies, the beer companies, and the United Center and everybody in general pushing us to just use other drugs? Because honestly, although it's legal, $46 for two beers, I mean, it seems ridiculous. I used to remember getting pitchers of beer for a quarter in college. I mean, I know that I'm old, right, Amy?
Yeah, a dime draws, at Sports Comm on Tuesdays. Well, so real quick about the concert, what was the crowd like? Was it people your age or any younger kids?
Oh, there were a lot of people my age. In fact, I would say the majority. We were in the 200 level section, so there weren't a ton of kids in the area. I mean, I had my son with me; he's 15, and we had a great time. I mean, it was really fun. We were good seats, but I think the crowd was super cool, and I would say mostly between 35 and 55.
Yeah,
I guess.
Pitbull's your age. I mean, that's just not
Yeah,
quite.
right. So
But
is
I
Ricky
mean,
Martin. And Ricky Martin's
Yeah.
a stud. I still, it's still weird that he's not heterosexual. I mean, he's a stud. I mean, no question about it.
you remember him from his Menudo days, don't you?
Of course. Why
Who
not?
doesn't?
Yeah,
I
there,
mean-
there was, yeah.
All right.
I hope you didn't have a poster on
But
your
anyway,
wall.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I want to say, like today, I just want to know: are we being lied to? I always
Yes.
feel like the messaging is emotive. Yeah, exactly. And fear sells, just like the beer, but for a lot less money. Why is there just more fear than courage, right? And aren't the worst decisions that people make, especially financially, based on fear? When it comes to investing, if you're afraid that you're going to lose your money, you dump it. Sometimes it's the wrong decision. So, and you remember the 70s, we were told about the coming ice age. Did that happen? Then Al Gore predicted the world would end by 2014 due to global warming. Did that happen? Was that a lie? Are there any retractions? And everybody's blaming climate change now. Did anyone ever hear of HAARP, HAARP? That's something to look into. What's with all the lies? Why are we seemingly presented with a problem where there's already a solution? Remember the Patriot Act that just happened to be ready, right after 9/11, and how was it done so quickly? And we all just went along with it. Okay, no problem. Weapons of mass destruction. Maybe I missed the apology for that one. 15 days to flatten the curve. What was that all about? Was that just a mechanism to keep moving the goalposts? Remember all the meetings and milestones that Fatty McButterpants, I think, Dan, you call him Jelly Belly, right?
Yeah.
He met him. We met them all, and we were still on a lockdown, and how many people just gave up their rights, right?
Remember the bridge to get to the 5 stages to
Right.
get to, I mean, oh my God, it's such craziness at those times.
And we got through them. And you were at all those meetings or all those
Ugh,
press
2
conferences,
years.
and he just kept moving the goalposts. But remember ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine? They were horse-based. Don't use them. They're bad. Now they're okay.
Yeah.
Why stand 6 feet apart? Why isn't it 7 or 5 or 12? Did wearing a mask ever do anything other than, psychologically, mentally? Is it physiologically effective? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know. Our whole lives we've been, conditioned to hate the Russians. Remember, like, the Miracle on Ice, back in 1980? I know you guys probably do.
I love
we
that
had
movie.
fallout drills, and we, hiding underneath our desks, like that was going to do anything for a nuclear threat. And then we beat them in 1980 in hockey, and
Right.
it was like we had just won like a super war, right? And but now we still send more money to other countries to protect than our own. And, we've been conditioned to think that China, Russia, Iran, and, quote unquote, insert any country here, they're evil because they propagandize their people and they limit their rights. But isn't that exactly what the U.S. does, right?
Well, I think there are degrees to that. I wouldn't compare. I mean, with all the cultural criticisms I have of the United States, I wouldn't compare us to the mullahs in Tehran. That's or Putin.
Well, true.
Or I mean, so there's proportional. And we don't hate Russians. I love Mikhail Gorbachev. I love Chekhov's work. So we're conditioned to hate totalitarianism, which is a good thing.
I think so too, but at the same time, most Americans now, they don't recognize that reality. The rest of the world is now, recognizing that the U.S. is kind of not so good, and they're fed up with our government's nonsense, right? I mean, we're seeing it all over the uprising. Go to Europe, be an American over there. It feels different. I think it's just time that we question everything that we're told and shown. It's seemingly different than it was 20 years ago when they said something on the news. At least it is for me. They would tell me something and I would believe it, right? And now I don't believe it anymore. I almost think the opposite. It's like a mirror.
It seems to me like
maybe not
I don't know if you heard our conversation with She Van Fleet earlier in the program today, but it just seems like to me we don't do a very good job of connecting dots, and we don't do a good job of learning from history, and we should perhaps listen to and familiarize ourselves with the works of Alexander Solzhenitsyn to understand what the Soviet Union was. We should listen to what She Van Fleet has to say about Mao's Cultural Revolution to understand what that experience was like, and really the China today is never recovered from that Cultural Revolution. They've really, the paradigm shift is slight, if at all. And so it just seems to me like this the constant battle between those who want to live in a free society and those who are interested in subjugating others and who call that a free society or call that saving our democracy. It seems to me the fight is the same fight. It's just being presented by different people with different agendas in a different way.
And I get where you're going with that, but my point is that we get told all these things, and then months later on Friday afternoon, when nobody's like listening or watching or reading the paper, they they don't retract it, or they say, okay, I made a mistake, sorry, but nobody ever hears that. I just think, again, we need a lot more discernment today in figuring out what we're doing. And anyway, so why not question everything they tell us? That's all.
Very
Have a great
good.
day, guys.
Ttach for the call,
Thank
David
you.
Kolsak. He is the founder of Turnkey.pro.
Do you have anything you'd like to get off your chest before we go to callers?
I do want to. Let's take some callers. But I do have this ordinance. In the midst of all the migrant business and the effort to get a ballot question on Sanctuary City on next spring's ballot. Mm-hmm. There's another ordinance that moved in the city of Chicago that relates to employees' time off and imposition of the regulation of the employer-employment relationship by the city of Chicago. That's moved out of committee and certainly will move through the council and certainly will be signed by BLM Brandon. And I think people should know about this. I think there's a real lesson here, but I'll hold my powder for a minute or two. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I have a Bobby Knight kicker that I think you'd love.
I love Bobby
I'll just
Knight.
go real quick. Since 83 years old, passed away. Family and saying in lieu of flowers, donate money to the Alzheimer's Association. He made a recruitment video for the Marine Corps, and these are some takeout because he did take after take after take, and then this is a blooper.
You want to join the team? Well, I'll tell you, if you're good enough, quit f***ing around and get your ass into your Marine recruiter right now. Tell the son of a bitch that you want to be part of the team, and God do it right now. How's that?
It's Patton-esque.
Does that have the kind of bite you're looking for?
Because I told him, okay, a little more feisty. And he's like, oh, I'll give you feisty. I love him.
He was the best. And there was a good piece, actually, in the Indy Star about Bobby Knight, a little bit about what we were talking about yesterday upon the awful news of his passing. And that is, he never talked about the things that he did that were that were philanthropic or altruistic. I mentioned Landon Turner. I mean, of course, Landon Turner was one of the best, perhaps the best basketball player he ever coached, and he was tragically paralyzed in a car accident the year after he led Indiana to a national championship. And the relationship that he had with Landon Turner and what he did for Landon Turner, that wasn't really covered in John Feinstein's Season on the Brink, and it was something that Bobby Knight didn't care about. He didn't care about if people knew the money he donated to education, how committed he was to making sure student athletes were student athletes, got an education, because most were not going to make it to the pros. The relationships he had with some of the professors on campus. He wasn't just sort of this fire-breathing coach at all times. He was a lot more textured than the media caricature of him would lead you to believe. And, he's one of the most important coaches in sport in the last 50 years. And with the importance that we place on coaches, rightly so, the impact they can have on young people, for those who are not familiar with sort of the full picture of Bobby Knight, maybe on the occasion of his passing, you get familiar with it. All right, let's take a couple calls. Ralph and Wilmette.
Hey, guys. Thank you very much for the week you've given. It's all been very, very interesting and useful. And I just thought someone was yelling at me about we're doing socialism, not communism. And I thought it worth pointing out that the difference between socialism and communism is theoretical. And by the time you're choosing between them, you've given up your liberty and anything else that's important. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for calling. I always lean on Lenin here in terms of making the distinction. The difference between communism and socialism. Communism is just socialism in a hurry. It's a matter of pace. It's not a matter of substance. Ken, Rogers Park.
Hey, Dan and Amy, good morning. Happy Friday. I wanted to thank you so much for focusing so much of your show on anti-Semitism. And especially last week, you played a great clip of Christine Amanpour, one of the most respected media clowns in Washington and one of the worst anti-Semites on TV. And I'm sure, Dan and Amy, people come up to you a lot and say, "Why do you care about anti-Semitism? You're not Jewish." And I go back to what your midday host Dennis Prager says, which is that anti-Semitism always leads to violence. It is a destroyer of civilization, and Jews are often the first, but they are never the last to be attacked. So I don't think people realize how serious this situation is, where so many Americans are caught up in this frenzy of Jew hatred and Israel hatred. And I just wanted to thank you for your focus on this particular point.
Our pleasure. Thank you for the call.
What year is this?
Thanks for the call, Ken. Martin Niemöller, right? The Lutheran, the German theologian, Lutheran pastor. First they came. Everybody's familiar with that quote.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to be reminded of that. First they came for the socialists, and I wasn't a socialist, so I didn't stand up. And then they came for the labor unionists, and I was a labor unionist, and I didn't stand up. And then they came for the Jews, and I wasn't a Jew, so I didn't stand up. And then they came for me, and there was nobody left to stand up for me. Yeah, I mean, what you're hearing from Hamas and so many other quarters on the left. Just what I said before, the history that some of us have not learned from. And by the way, this is also an opportunity for the left to offer commentary like this in Salon.com. MAGA and Christian nationalism, bigger threat to America than Hamas could ever be.
Oh, please.
Right? So, and it's completely unsurprising editorial, particularly given the source. But this is the play of the left always, is to demonize people, to divide, and to instigate hate. And so you say, well, they're focused on the Jews. Well, they're some are, but it's part of a bigger play, as Ken was just mentioning.
Well, even KJP, I mean, they call out MAGA extremists, but they're not calling out MAGA leftists.
MAGA leftists?
I mean, not MAGA leftists. I'm sorry, liberal leftists who, are pro-Hamas. It's in driving into the city yesterday, on inbound Kennedy, there was a huge Palestinian flag flying over one of the bridges. Like, oh my God.
Rick in Downers Grove.
Hey, good morning. This is in regards to that history lesson of Tuesday morning, when they talked about Martin Luther, and he might have had an experience of epiphany because he was constipated. Mm-hmm. I mean, I enjoy history as much as anybody, and I'm not an authority on it, but I've never heard that before, and that sounds like a load of crap to me.
Hi-oh. Hey. Thanks for the call, Rick. Frank and Palatine.
Good morning, guys. Great show as always. I'm kind of concerned. Everyone's talking proportionality. Well, we have 330 million Americans. They have 9 million Jews. If you divide 330 by 9, you get 52. I'm sorry, you get 37. Multiply that times 9, you get 51,000. That's what we'd have lost. What if America lost 51,000 people? What would we be doing? What would Biden be doing? Would he be expecting proportionality on the people who attacked America? 51,000. Keep that number in mind. Forget the 1,400. Keep doing the great work, guys. I love you.
Thanks, Frank. Joe, Arlington Heights.
Good morning. This has been a pretty interesting week, from Monday talking about what was happening in South Africa. Yesterday, you had a terrific young undergrad from Stanford on, very articulate woman, all talking about, in essence, wokeism. So I was inspired to write a poem about it, and I called the poem The Lubricant of Hate. There are things that make life rich, like mighty struggles won, or bitter lessons from battles lost when we refuse to dwell on cost. But alongside of these lessons learned, something schemes to take its turn. It's the lubricant of hate, with its power to make gratitude abate. It's not of race, gender, nor Judeo-Christian creed. Far from these things lies hate, true seed. It's a treacherous slope to despair, having sprung from Mark's own lair. It's at the heart of today's woke craze, in which the dupe robotically say, I'm the victim, it's just my lot. Responsibility, agency? I have not. So now with ease, the woke strive to spot all the oppressors like Jews and cops. We must hate successful family men. Yes, what used to be ideal way back when. Victimhood is the lubricant of hate. Don't look within, just blame fate. Refuse to think or debate. Self-righteousness has become your trait. Grieve we must for what is lost. Charity's greatest gift is the cost. That gift of God upon us he did bless. It's the death of forgiveness, nothing less.
Very good, Joe. Wow. Joe from Arlington Heights, the poet laureate of Chicago's Morning Answer. That was excellent.
Some smart
well done.
people up in Arlington Heights.
Well done. Thank you for that,
There's
Joe.
smart people here. Yeah,
Yeah,
we gave birth to people like Amy, you know.
You're doing right. You
Says
did.
a lot. Well,
Yeah.
I'm glad you liked it.
Thanks for the call. That was wonderful. Very good.
Thank you.
I
love our
Rich, Indian
listeners.
Head Park. Hey, Rich.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy.
Morning.
What I wanted to say is Chicago willing now to give up their so-called core values of being a sanctuary city just to stop the number of illegals coming into Chicago? And what happened to the city saying that they welcome everyone? Have a good weekend.
Well, they're still welcoming everyone. They're just trying to have the voters decide. And I give credit to Alderman Beal and Alderman Lopez, and I know you and I probably differ on that, but I'm glad that they're trying to make this a decision where the citizens can decide.
Well, they can't decide. It's an advisory
it's
referendum.
advisory
If they get it on the ballot, it would perhaps embarrass the power structure in the city and the county. Perhaps not. I mean, it's unclear to me that it would be a resounding no. We don't want to be a sanctuary city. Obviously, there's some fear that that is the case, which is why BLM Brandon and his allies are blocking it. So, I mean, I give Lopez some credit. I give Tony Beal less credit, but I give them some credit for raising the issue. But it's taken a long time. And there's more that can and should be done than just an advisory referendum on the ballot.
And if you live in the city, see how your alderman voted. Of course, mine voted against it, I'm going to write him an email. Not that he'll care, but you should say something. Don't just sit there and let them walk all over you.
Tom in Blue Island.
Hey, Dan and Amy. Dan, Amy, great segment earlier about the migrant shelters being put up, or opened despite the argument that they're just considering it. I do a lot of work in Roseland, 115th and Halstead area, and there's been activity over there for months. And regardless of what they're saying, they're going to put the migrants there at some point. And the question I wanted to ask earlier, Dan, is that Roseland is not Lakeview. And you mentioned that gentleman, from, I think it was Venezuela, that had been arrested 4 times and released. What's the political play going to be when some little old lady gets mugged or worse over in Roseland? Because I assure you this, those people are tough. And the idea that they're just going to stand there and take it is not going to happen. And I'm just wondering what you think the political response to that is going to be, Dan.
You mean the political response from the neighborhood, not the political response from City Hall, you mean?
Right.
I assume. I don't know what the political response from the neighborhood. I mean, it's a powder keg. Political response from BLM Brandon will be, and his ilk will be the typical denunciation of the particular act, but defense of the overall policy that makes acts like that more likely. That's what you'll get, and then you'll hear what you're hearing from the Biden administration. We're against hate. We've got a national strategy to counter anti-Semitism. And now yesterday, Kamala Harris, or maybe it was Don Lemon, I'm not sure which, announced a national strategy to combat Islamic discrimination, Islam, anti-Muslim hate, and so on and so forth. So that's what you'll get. You'll get the middling of the issue. We're against hate while we foment it. That's what you'll get. The interesting thing, too, about the migrant shelters, I know this has been raised. We could raise it again. Do you think there's anything to their decision to put up these tent cities, these so-called base camps in places like Brighton Park or Roseland, as opposed to utilizing vacant commercial or industrial spaces, shuttered CPS schools or thinly populated CPS schools? You think why wouldn't you use a structure that exists, number one, that particularly a shuttered school probably can be retrofitted more easily, and would be warmer in the winter ostensibly.
There are some high schools out there, and high schools are better than middle schools because high schools have plenty of showers.
Why would they do the tent cities when you have all these vacant structures? Matt's outside.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, Amy. Last week I heard about a black-owned, female-owned bakery that was opening in Chicago, and our governor was talking about how excited they made him. I'm not buying his reasons. I have a feeling Pittsburgh gets just as excited whenever a new Dunkin' Donuts comes into the community as well.
All right, Matt.
Hey, can I do real quick? Earlier this week, we had a caller say, he called in and said that the Kmart at, I think it was 72nd and Pulaski, I believe, that was going to become a shelter. That is more than, it's 90% sure that is going to be the next thing to fall, that location.
Richard in Blue Island.
Yeah, hey, Dan and Amy. Democrats love referring to Republicans as MAGA Republicans, Make America Great Again. Republicans should start using the phrase for Democrats as Massa Democrats, Make America Suck Again.
All right. Richard. Glenn, Orlando.
Yeah, good morning, guys. Where are all the people with the signs that had hate has no home here when they were against Trump and everything? And we see a lot of hate in the Middle East. And where are all those people with those signs? Isn't hate no matter where it's at? And I understand the social media companies are censoring pro-Israeli things and not the terrorist thing, the Palestinians positive things or something. Where's all that censorship going on? It's hypocritical what's going on here.
Thanks for the call, Glenn. I want to get to this ordinance in the city of Chicago, this employee leave ordinance. Employees accrue 1 hour of paid sick time for every 35 hours work, capped at 40 hours per year, and accrue 1 hour of paid time off for every 35 hours work, capped at 40 hours per year. So here's what that means to a small business owner like my friend who has a restaurant who emailed me about this. To give you a sense of it, what this means. So every week, a full-time employee earns more than 2 hours of paid leave each week. I assume the best move for me is to pay people a percentage of that as a year-end bonus for the hours they don't take. That way, if you don't take time off unnecessarily, you get a nice bonus. But there's more. There's the carryover. At the end of a covered employee's 12-month accrual period, the covered employee shall be allowed to carry over to the following 12-month period up to 16 hours of paid leave and 80 hours of paid sick leave. The employer doesn't need to pay the covered employee for any unused paid leave and paid sick leave lost as a result of not being able to be carried over from one 12-month period to the other. However, if the employer denies a covered employee approval of their paid leave and paid sick leave in a manner that prohibits such covered employee from meaningfully having access to such paid time off, such employer must increase the covered employee's permissible carryover to include carryover of any such denied paid leave or paid sick leave. So how this works in the real world, back to my friend. So if I pay a bonus for attendance, it doesn't wipe off the unused leave, especially not the sick leave, for which they can carry over 2 years' worth, plus whatever's accrued that current year. Aside from a cash grab against small businesses, it's a huge accounting and personnel nightmare. We're going to spend a ton of time defending ourselves against claims. For a mid to large company, that's not hard, but I don't have a personnel department. Now I might have to hire someone to manage that nightmare. And this only scratches the surface. I'm certain it's going to get worse. The only way to manage it properly so it's not a bomb waiting to go off in our faces is to hire someone to manage these 12 to 15 people and make sure there's no backlash. Right now we use ADP, which is an expensive payroll services, but they don't have the ability to manage this, so I'll probably need to hire a personnel person. But also that person will need to be versed in this Kafkaesque ordinance, so it will be some pay $25 to $38 an hour or about $80,000 a year. Maybe I can find some good or part-time person, but it still nets out to a huge cost to a small business. And, to that, it's just, hey, that's just doing business in the big city, just like being a crime victim is just big city living. Now, this is, of course, opposed by the Illinois Restaurant Association. So they're on the
gonna
job.
Stand up? Okay.
They're not standing up. This is a pro forma opposition. You think they're going to, Sam Toya and company are going to spend any political capital?
Being facetious, yes.
Right. So here's my response to this, what the city's actually doing. And this is, like, you have to understand their mentality. People always sort of take it like, they take these proposals in the light most generous to those advancing these proposals, and you shouldn't. What I said to my friend is, they're betting you won't close up shop. And if you do, a bigger restaurant group or retailer will take over. They don't like small businesses any more than they like the little guy. You're nuisances. The bigger players, as he said, can absorb the costs and push consolidation of industries. They might complain a bit, like the Illinois Restaurant Association, but that allows Pauls to pretend like they're sticking it to the fat cats on behalf of their employees. They know Chicago's electorate will never be able to connect those dots, and the pushback from groups like the Illinois Restaurant Association will be pro forma but not punishing politically. I mean, you have to understand they actually despise having to deal with all of these independent actors, either on an individual level or a small business level. They are for the big guys. While they take criticism from some corporate interests, and they say, we're standing up to the big corporate interests on behalf of their poor downtrodden employees, and they're doing just the opposite. All right. Lee and Hammond.
Hey, guys. Since as far as these migrants, the Catholic Charities is one of the biggest NGOs that's actually been facilitating bringing them in here. When is the Archdiocese of Chicago going to open up all these empty churches and start putting these people in these buildings? I mean, they got to keep the utilities on to maintain the buildings. They're sitting there empty. I can think of 3 of them right on the southeast side that are empty right now. And there's usually a rectory next door with shower facilities, a kitchen. They've got halls. When is the Catholic Archdiocese of Chicago going to step up and take care of these people? They profess to be for the common man. Well, when are they going to start pulling their weight here?
Thanks for the call. Yeah, live their values. Live your values, Cardinal Supich. He's an open borders guy.
Oh, yeah. Well, then, step up and do your part.
I haven't heard anything from Supich on this matter. That's a good point. Mary in Elmwood Park.
Hi, Dan and Amy. I just wanted to make a couple quick comments about the segment you did yesterday with about Rebecca Todd Peters, the feminist theologian. First, she says directly, the only way I can be a Christian is to be a feminist Christian. And it brought to mind for me something Cardinal George said once, which is, we are Christians on Christ's terms, not on our terms. So we don't set the terms for who gets to be, Jesus does that. So, she seems to have created a God of her own making. But secondly, regarding her comments on abortion, what she and others, abortion advocates who try to, make the case that there is such a thing as, God-loving abortion or something like that, whatever other nonsense she said. The earliest manual of Christian discipline, which was called the Didache, which was written by the very first followers of Christ, many of whom knew him and followed him, explicitly condemned abortion by name in a Roman Empire where it was widely practiced. So it was 100% clear to the first followers of Christ that abortion was completely incompatible with following him. And so they wrote up this kind of manual for the new way and how they were going to live it, and abortion's mentioned specifically and by name. So, she likely knows this as someone who has studied Scripture, and it's really irksome. It's just one in the long litany of lies that abortion supporters tell And I think as we approach the 2024 elections, I hope people are mindful of these kind of things so that they can, contradict them. But, she also talks about something called the abortion imaginary. And she says, women who have had abortions have had their voices silenced. And really, from my perspective, the only women who have had abortions who are getting their abortions silenced are the ones who regret them. I mean, you look at, poor Britney Spears. I've just finished reading that book that she wrote. And she had the poor thing. Yeah, Amy, Justin Timberlake. She wanted to keep that baby that she had with Justin Timberlake. And she makes it very clear in the book, I didn't want to have an abortion, but he said he wasn't ready to be a father. And he said, there's plenty of time and blah, blah, blah. And so, he arranges for her to have a private abortion at home, which was excruciating for her because he didn't want anyone to know that she'd had the abortion. And then after she did it, he turned around and he left her anyway and went and started, a family. And that's when you can kind of trace back to her really starting to spiral. I mean, the poor thing is really, she made a very poor choice, and she made other poor choices as well. I'm not excusing that. But I think you can trace a lot of that back to post-abortion trauma and post-abortion aftermath.
Thank you for the call, Mary. Chuck and Delavan.
Hey, Super Sean, this Matter was a great band. Thanks for mentioning them. Hey, karaoke tonight at Foley's for me. And so much talk about this marijuana. I don't use it, but I medicate myself with Tito's. I'm lifting the ban today on zero tolerance and alcohol on my job site and starting the weekend early because I'm turning 68 on Sunday. Party on, everybody. I'll see you around.
Happy birthday, Chuck. Rock out at the karaoke bar tonight, Chuck. Thank you so much. Open Mic Friday, sponsored by Turnkey.pro, your small business partner. Visit them online at Turnkey.pro.
Our thanks to all of our callers, of course, and our listeners. Thank you so much. Thanks to Justin Kosick, our technical producer, and Quinn McCarthy. Have a wonderful weekend. Go Hawkeyes as we will beat your Northwestern Wildcats, Dan.
You better.
It's now 9 a.m. WIND Chicago.
We need to do more to protect Palestinian civilians. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's what Secretary of State